And we're on round 2 of vegan donuts, which I fully appreciate. Everyone taking advantage of the donuts for our Breakfast of Champions here. But we'll just kind of get going and get rolling, stay casual. Sure. But today we've got Claus in the studio, Claus Grabke, and we've got his son Finn along today.
Hi guys.
Yeah, hey. This is next episode. We're moving right along, and we're super excited to have Claus and his family here. We got lucky with you guys being in town and being in the States. So we've got Bo Brown here co-hosting as well, and we've got a few bullet points, and we'll just sort of get to chatting.
Well, I want to tell you guys up front, this is going to be a love fest. Claus is my old teammate, and without any hyperbole, Claus is seriously one of the best people I've ever known.
Thank you so much.
Of course. Family becomes family through either blood or the people you choose to be part of the family. And the Grabkes have definitely been part of my family for most of my life now.
Yeah, awesome.
So we're here today to just talk shit, get caught up, and ask a lot of questions that I've known for a lot of years. I think I've known for a lot of years, but I just want to
get deeper.
I want to get deeper in some of these.
Going to get deep. We'll kick them off the same way, but obviously the best place to start is how'd you get into skating? When did you start skating, and what drew you to skateboarding?
Right, and that's an interesting one with me because obviously, first of all, hi everybody, and thank you everybody here at Madrid Skateboards for having me, and this is awesome. It's a weird little story because I'm from Germany. I'm not from Southern California. It's not like I saw people skate down the sidewalk and I'm thinking, oh, I'll have that. The actual truth is my cousin Jochen, that's an actual name, Jochen and I were always doing things together. And we were kind of inventors a little bit. We, made our own little styrofoam planes and stuff. Like, we made up games. We didn't just play soccer. We turned it into something else, made some different rules for it. And one day found an old roller skate and sat on it and rode down the little local hill. There's a little school right where I live, and there's a very tiny little hill. And we thought it was the funnest thing in the world. The thing fell apart into 2 halves. Like, what do we do now? And he's like, let's nail it to a board. So we nailed it to a board. The nail sticking through on the other side, all dangerous. We wouldn't push. We'd jump onto the thing and then go down the hill.
Now, did you come to nailing it on a board on your own? This is before you even saw a skateboard?
It's either one of us. Yeah. With Jochen and I, we always had cool ideas. I wouldn't be able to say who was the first one to say, let's nail it. Yeah. Maybe, and Finn, you will agree, my go-to technique would always be to duct tape it. So I'm thinking because duct tape, as we know it, wasn't a thing in Germany at the time. Right. We had more like the painter's tape, which is a much softer and it tears easy. So probably this one, although I duct taped everything back then, but this one, I think maybe the nails were my idea. Yeah. And we just nailed it onto the board like a swing board. Yeah. That we had the swing fell apart. We still had the board off it. Wow. Looked pretty good actually. And later we glued some carpet on top because we didn't like the nails sticking out. Sure. And
soft grip tape.
A week later, and we're riding on this thing, sitting on it, standing on it. We didn't do much on it, honestly. But then a week later on German television, and we have, at the time we had 3 public broadcast services. Yeah. So first program, second program, third program. And on the second one, every Saturday night was a big sports program. And 90% of all people watched that program. And the Banzai skateboard team of Germany, led by a guy called Lulu Magnus. He was the importer for Banzai and a couple of other American brands. And they're in full team attire with the Banzai team shirt. There's 4 guys who I later got to meet, but they were my first idols. Michael Wolf was one of them, Thomas Klan. Those are the 2 that I remember. They were on that sports program.
What year was this, would you say?
77.
Late 70s.
It just, skateboarding had not yet hit. Mm-hmm. It was hitting after that show in Germany. So they were doing tic-tacs. Tic-tacking. I'm like, what are they doing? They don't even need to jump on the board. They're riding it as is. They had a little, not a quarter ramp, just almost like a slalom ramp, and they would go up and do a kick turn, halfway up.
Just like a wedge ramp.
Yeah, all early stuff. One dude was doing a handstand on the board, and my cousin and I are looking at each other like, they stole our thing. What are they doing? Right? Over the next, so we got like we were hyped. We're like, yeah, this
that was
is
that was
awesome.
the moment.
Well, everyone got hyped. It
Yeah.
was and that's what it was in those days. It was a big hype. It was like hula hoop or playing a yo-yo or something.
Right.
These hypes came in and went after a couple of months.
Yeah.
But with skateboarding, what happened is also within the next month there was a movie that came out, and that Banzai team was. There's a part in the movie where the kid who's a star in the movie goes to like a city fest, and the Banzai team is doing a show.
Wow.
So they put like some rad rock music under it, like
Yeah,
70s style. And they're doing the same thing that they did, handstands and the kick turn halfway up. And and then other programs, they showed like, I think Skateboard Fever, is that a film that someone made?
Yeah.
They showed part of it. And I, with a Super 8 camera, because he didn't have video recorders, I filmed it off the screen because I knew someone said tomorrow there's a thing on skateboarding on this program in the afternoon.
Pre-VCR, pre
So I was like, I still have those
TiVo,
films.
You had it bootleg.
And they're talking about skateboarding, etc. But that's kind of how I started. So we still had these self-made boards, and we made about 4 different ones, which I think set me up in a good way to working on my own decks. Not that I made any good ones then, but I realized that it takes a lot to get a good skateboard done. And I wasn't doing anything what you guys are doing here, but
you're rolling up your sleeves and
I
doing
bought
it yourself.
better roller skates that are easier to take apart. I used screws instead of nails. We had the local wood shop cut them out for us. The shape that I had cut out was almost like a coffin shape with 2 wings. I thought I could hold on to the wings while going down.
Yeah, sure.
The things,
That became a board in the 80s, by the way.
It did become, and it looked similar.
It
looked
maybe
similar.
It was Valterra
and then
Nash
some
or
car
something.
drove over the board, and it broke, and I was in tears. And
Yeah.
But that's the early days. And the next big step, I think, is my brother comes home, and he was a part of this first skateboarding stuff a little bit. He's older than me, and he's like, the local sports shop has a skateboard in the window, and it was a green, I don't even know what brand, like one of the cheap plastic brands that came out, and it was 80 Deutschmark. We didn't have the money, and my brother and I stole the money from my mother's purse. It's probably the only thing I ever stole in my life.
Yeah.
But we did. And there was like a rush. Like I felt my heart was beating hard. It was like, we need this board.
That's what stealing does. It's
not about the stealing, about the actual thought of having this board because it looked so good.
Yeah.
It's a green plastic board with green open ball bearing wheels and the mini trucks. 77, go figure. And so we had those boards. And later told our mom she was fine with it. I have a fantastic relationship with my parents, so don't worry about it. But that's kind of the very beginning of it.
Well, so for those of us in the States, or maybe the geographically challenged, where was this? Where did you grow up?
This is in a little town called Gütersloh in Germany. It's the belly button of Germany. So what I need to tell you about it is this. When people from America think about Germany, they often think about southern Germany. They've seen the Lederhosen. They've heard about the Oktoberfest. They see the fancy castle. Is it called Schloss Schwanstein, which is what Disney modeled his big Cinderella castle off. Okay. They see the Alps. That's what they think. It's a very small and fancy part of Germany. And like 90% of all Germans are the extreme opposite of all of that. In my city, it's flat. There's farmland. We don't have a fancy lake. Our castles are fortresses and not castles, so they're like square with holes to put like guns through or cannons or whatever. The castle we have locally is from 1400.
Wow.
Take Americans there and they expect the Cinderella castle, but they're like, what's this? It's a rock. I'm like, that's a castle.
So what's the closest major metropolitan area to where you grew up?
It's the industrial area of Germany called the Ruhrgebiet. Okay. And so the closest bigger city would be something like Dortmund. Which Close to Münster.
Somewhere between Cologne and Berlin. I guess that's the best way to describe it.
You're right. But it is truly the belly button of Germany. It's right in the middle. So we're almost dialect free, although we like to think we are, but we're really not. I can tell people from my area immediately. But that's what we're from. So like many people who are listening in that are not from California, we have extreme weather changes over the year. We have strong winters. We have mediocre summers, and lame whatever other seasons you have. So skating in the garage or skating in anything with a roof over you is definitely something we had to do.
So how did you get to a point where, okay, you've started to build your own boards, you've started to become aware of skateboarding. Where were you getting information, like whether it's magazines, publications? You mentioned the TV program, but how were you learning more about skateboarding as it started to obviously get bigger and bigger in the early 80s?
Very interesting, because I think that particular question is also the reason why I am who I am. Because it wasn't accessible. It wasn't there. It wasn't in my face. It wasn't like I couldn't ask a kid on the street. My cousin pretty soon dropped out of the skateboarding thing. So did my brother. I met my friend Uli, who rode from Madrid skateboards. And he had been, believe it or not, skating for 1.5 years longer than I have, because his father got him a board in Biarritz, which is down southern France.
Sure, yeah.
And they had easier access to the surf culture. So he had like a long board, still has it.
Really?
Wow.
And so I'm alone on the schoolyard, no one's skating with me, and this guy, he's very tall. A giant.
Yeah.
A giant comes skating from the bottom of the hill up, and I'm like, who is that? What is that skateboard? Because I had a plastic board, and he had a wooden board that almost looked like a taper kick, because it had the weird little layers of different colored wood and like white clay wheels. It was a board from 1968 that he has, that his father bought at some surf shop.
Yeah.
So I'm like, who are you? Must have been like Flea meeting Anthony Kiedis or something like that. Like, hello, soul brother. Where have you been all this time? I like this thing. And he's like, yeah, I've had it for 1.5 years, but no one's skating. So, and then we started skating together. There was another friend, but for the longest time, it was the three of us. And your question about the information, we didn't have any unless TV was showing something.
Yeah.
And soon the TV coverage in Germany turned from, this is a great new sport from America, to this is dangerous for the kids in our country.
Yeah.
And so I didn't really have anything. I had mainstream media reporting on skateboarding.
Yeah.
So Ty Page and Russ Howell, who were always in these videos, became my first role models. Although maybe here not a lot of people would say that these guys were role models, because they're looking at Tony Alva, but he was never in those first things that I saw.
Sure.
I saw the black-yellow tracksuit.
Right. The
Ty
freeformer.
Page and the locks and the 360s, and Russ doing the handstands, and that's what we modeled ourselves after. What the first actual information came from an outside source that I hadn't expected. But here's a little history lesson in a couple of words. Germany started and luckily lost the Second World War. My hometown had an airport called the Adolf Hitler Airport.
Jeez.
Right? My area after the Second World War, Germany, was divided into 4 parts. British part, American part, Russian part, and French part. We were in the French part. In the English part.
Okay.
So that airport became the Master Barracks, the RAF airport. It's gone now, but it was for the longest time. So a lot of Brits were stationed in my hometown. My father comes back one day. He knows we're skating and stuff. And he's like, I saw about 20 kids skateboarding down at Bultmann Street, which is where most of the Brits lived, in like these, what they call barracks. I'm like, really? So I didn't know a word of English. I was young, 13 or something. We ride our skateboards down there. We meet 20 kids, all Brits, skating in this like roundabout sort of thing, blocked off for traffic. Dead end street.
Yeah.
And they're all skating there. Girls looking on, and it was a scene. It was like, what's going on? My friend and I looking at each other, what's going on? So we're skating with them. And the language, I didn't speak the language, but skateboarding was the language. They would show us a thing, I would show them a thing. And they had magazines. The Brits had caught on to skateboarding earlier than the Germans. So they had like a couple of, skateboarding was one of them, Skateboard UK, whatever. And they had this one kid, Ian Smith. He had a bunch of skateboard mags. I couldn't read English yet or anything, but I was flicking through, and there was all the pictures and the various manufacturers, all the things I never knew.
Yeah.
Never knew what Sim Skateboards was.
Right.
But here they are, looking good.
Yeah.
Logan Ersky, what the hell, And then they had their own, what's it called? Benji boards? I think Benji boards.
Yeah, that was
they had their own
a
companies,
UK
and so the British kids had them. We had access to these boards because they were with the army, and they could order that stuff without any local taxes or whatever.
Right.
So you'd buy like some of their used boards. But through them, I I was first introduced to that part of skateboarding, which, as you know, is a very important part.
Sure.
You almost get high on a new product or something. You
Right,
see
yeah.
another skater. Oh, that's what. He's wearing a headband. That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
You know, or you see a certain board, and it also introduced me to Surrey skateboards. They were selling boards and things and everything skateboarding, pretty much worldwide. Although probably didn't have a lot of worldwide customers, but I became one of their customers.
But
And-
they were a UK mail order.
Mail order. So they had like a photocopied little thing. It didn't have much pictures, but Kryptonics 70 millimeter red.
Right.
One pair, please to my door. 2 weeks later, you would get it. But the guy who shipped it, because there was so few people skating at the time and really meant it, because it had died already as a fad. Is that a word?
Yes.
Oh, yeah. Sure.
Yeah. And so what was left was just people who really meant it and loved it.
Yeah.
So the guy working there, I wish I remembered his name, but he started writing longer letters about this is what's happening in London right
Cool. Yeah.
now. This guy got picked up by that company, whatever. This guy, Tony Alva's in town. He's doing a couple of TV appearances.
Wow.
I'm like, oh, cool. So you order your first stuff there.
Yeah.
But so that is, I would say, what you asked me is how did you get that information? First of all, by really being open for it and looking for it and finding it in the weirdest places.
You had to put in the legwork back then, put a little more energy into
Yeah,
it.
they also sent me my first copy of Skateboarder magazine.
Yeah.
It was just, I didn't order it. He's like, I want you to have this.
Yeah. That's awesome.
So every word in that magazine, I wasn't even good at English yet,
Yeah.
but I was like, oh my God. And then you look up, like, what does gnarly mean? And gnarly is a branch of a tree, is gnarly.
Yeah,
Right, yes,
right.
yeah.
But why are they calling that trick gnarly? And then it's probably, they use that word to do something else with it, and you
Yeah, yeah.
learn.
That's
But
awesome.
I absorbed all of that.
Yeah.
It was 100% of my life was that.
Yeah.
And trying to get every information I could possibly get about this amazing thing, skateboarding.
Are we about 2 years into this at this
Yeah,
point? A couple
pretty
years
much.
in?
Pretty
Yeah.
much. This is before the local skate shop actually opened, because the sports shop that I bought the first plastic board from has a part in my history later. But
Yeah.
for the time being, once the fad died, once the skateboarding trend, whatever died, it was also not to be found in that sports shop
Sure.
anymore.
Yeah,
They were
yeah.
selling the tennis rackets and the
Sure.
football, and I'm talking the actual football, not your
Yeah,
football.
The real football.
World football.
World football.
Actual
yeah.
football.
We know when, we've spoken to enough that we understand what you mean when you say
Yeah.
football. Yeah.
We don't believe you, but we
Yeah.
I believe you because I have zero interest in sports, so I'll take soccer over football. It's no, yeah, it
And
doesn't
I
bother
don't,
me.
but I used to go in and out of that sports shop hoping
Yeah.
they would have a new skateboard or something
Yeah.
just to look at, because you would try anything.
Sure.
You know, all of a sudden there's a fiberglass board. It's a cheap one. It's not yet a good one, right? The first good ones that I saw were all through Surrey Skateboards. I can't stress enough how much Surrey Skateboards meant for me in the beginning, because
awesome.
and they don't know. They wouldn't know,
Sure.
because what do they know? I much later, and I'm skipping now, but we're going right back. But much later, actually went to Surrey Skateboards. I had met Shogo Kubo at Rolling Thunder
wow.
Skate
Oh
Park
my
in London.
God.
Wow, cool.
This is about a year later, and I was like, oh my God, he was riding the triplane board. But to
right.
this day, no one can make a board like that.
No,
Dogtown
it's-
tried, and they failed. Now I
Right.
talked to Jim about it, and he's riding that board with the graphics on top and the clear tape,
Yeah,
grip tape on it.
Right.
And Shogo was my first American pro that I ever saw.
Nice.
Rolling Thunder had a long half pipe, like a block long, it seemed like, and he was just carved grinding. And so I went to Surrey Skateboards the next day, Tracker Magnesium trucks, whatever. That board, his board, I had pizza grip put in place like you did, et cetera, and I was super stoked. Even then, I didn't say, oh, by the way, I've been riding you guys forever.
Yeah.
But let's go back to wherever that other stuff happened. But yeah, Surrey Skateboards, big source of information.
And you just mentioned it briefly, but you said prior to the local shop opening. So when did you guys get a true skate shop opening?
Right. This was
area?
at the same time when we also got our first German skateboard magazine. Another thing I can't stress enough. It's a magazine just called Skateboard. And it's done by the guy who imported Banzai skateboards,
Okay.
Lulu Magnus. So he had everything in place. He had his team. He did like contests and stuff. You could like go to whatever contests all of a sudden. I didn't yet, but like they were out there, and he reported on them in the magazine, right? So that started, and my mother, I think, said there's a skate shop in Bielefeld, which is the next big city. My hometown, at the time, had 80,000 inhabitants, and now has about 100, maybe.
Yeah, we're a big city now.
We're a big city now.
Germany's smallest big city.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Bielefeld has 1 million or
How
so.
far from your town?
16 kilometers, so 10 miles.
Okay.
It's a train
You
ride.
can skate there. I mean, really.
Not really. It's a 5-minute train ride.
Yeah.
Which that's the transportation of those days for me. And I went, and they had everything. I mean, I to this day know how Red Kryptonics smell, or Vans shoes or whatever. They had it all. They had the Gullwing trucks and the GNS boards and the Bull Rider models and what. They had everything. And they...
Did that just blow your mind at the time?
It totally
Was
did.
It like
And
walking into the candy store?
We
I
hung
remember
out way too long.
Yeah.
We had, like the guys at some point, you're like, you've been here for 5 hours, dude.
Yeah.
Are you buying anything?
You're
But he
just
became
soaking it in.
He's a good friend to this day. And the guy who ran the shop later moved to London, moved into a place with Yoko Ono and Sean Lennon.
Wow.
He became a big advertising guy, made big adverts for Mercedes-Benz and BMW and whatnot. He is, when you see him, an amazing guy. He looked like he once came to see me at the studio in winter. He had a very long coat, like Dracula-type coat, very long white hair, and was coming in the wind to me. He's like, hey, I just wanted to say hi real quick. He's amazing. But they had the store, and it was a ski, surf, and skateboard store.
Interesting.
But I want to say 3/4 of it was skateboarding.
Yeah.
They had a big, and they also had the big skateboard club, the Erster Bielefelder Skateboardverein. It's what it's called in German.
Yeah.
First Bielefeld Skateboard
I
Club.
assumed, yeah.
They had practice twice a week.
Really?
Once in a parking garage and once at a bike track that has like banked walls on the side.
Oh, wow.
Oh, the one that's still there?
Yeah, the one that's still out there. So twice a week, my mom would drive me to Bielefeld for skateboard practice.
Wow.
Yeah, that's
And
awesome.
they, in 77, also had the first, 78, they had the first Bielefeld championships. I didn't know what to make of it. I couldn't see where am I in all of this, but I won it. I won slalom, freestyle, and got second in high jump, got the
Really?
overall thing, and was picked up by Calypso Skateboards, who are basically SKF, who you heard of.
Bearings, yeah.
Ball bearing company out of Germany. And
This is
they
your
decide,
first contest, just right out of
my
the
first
gate.
contest.
Second place. Sponsored.
First place.
First
Yeah,
place.
first place and sponsored.
Second
yeah.
place in high jump.
Look
at me. Am I a high jumper? No, but I got second in that.
Yeah.
And I got picked up by the shop to be their shop team, but also by Calypso. Got a Calypso aluminum double kickboard,
Oh, like the
With-
bonsai.
like the Bonsai, but with like Bain-like trucks. You know, the weird. SKF manufactured everything at their factory, and I was stoked. And as part of the local shop team, I got like one of those Hobie jerseys, the cool one with the rainbow colors.
Yeah.
And then we started doing like little demos everywhere. When they had, like,
Regionally? I mean, like.
yeah, very
town to town,
regionally at
yeah.
first, but then they started driving me to. I remember my first contest that they drove me to was European Championships in Mainz in Germany, and that was another thing. All of a sudden you meet these international skaters from
Right.
all over Europe.
Right.
I didn't do so well, maybe 10th in freestyle or something, and 15th in slalom. That's the two things that I participated in, but that's it. It was pretty cool. And all of this, I feel like now that I'm talking about it, through all these years, I was just super hyperactive about it in a positive way.
Yeah.
Like stage fright can
Yeah.
be very positive if
Yeah.
you have it the right way, if you deal with it the right way. And
Yeah.
we arrived at that hall and there was 50 kids skating outside doing 360s and whatnot. I'm like, oh my God,
Yeah.
just amazing.
Yeah.
Meeting
You just
these people.
absorb everything at
Everything.
that point.
Everything.
Yeah. Everything you see,
Yeah.
everybody you talk to, it's like the clouds have opened up
Yeah.
and you see sunshine for the first time.
Absolutely. There was also the next contest that I was then all of a sudden picked up by a German company called CS, which is California Sun. They also made their own boards, their own wheels and stuff. You get a team jersey that actually says CS California Sun. I'm like, I'm a part of this team.
Yeah.
I'm now going to the German championships in Essen, and they have the Pepsi half pipe.
Wow.
And the guys are getting halfway up. There's no flat bottom. They're doing like the fakie
Right.
thing.
Yeah.
First time I'm
Plexiglass.
seeing fakie. No. This is a wooden one, a white wooden one.
Okay.
Probably the European version of you guys had the plexiglass.
We had the plexi.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But like, so I'm like, this is better than the freestyle area.
Yeah.
So
was that your first exposure to?
I actually, they let me skate it, and I didn't know how to fakie or nothing.
Sure.
But once we were back home, we had always at home. We already, because we did one show for the local shop, and as part of our payment, we got a little piece of plywood that we could lean against a fence and do kick turns on. But this plywood got bigger and bigger to be this like very high, but like steady, not a transition.
Sure, just a wedge.
So how high can you get up? And on the top of it, we built a second one. So it's like almost a half pipe. Honestly, if someone filmed that, if I had film or photo of that, you would say, how did you learn how to half pipe skate in that?
Yeah.
First of all, if you fall off it, you fall 10 feet into nothing.
Right.
And it's like the shakiest 2 pieces of plywood, like this, and a bendy wood in the middle so you wouldn't get stuck. And I learned how to like fakie rock and rock fakie in that thing way back in
I don't know if
70.
you follow or have seen the Past Participle on Instagram. It's an account that posts a lot of historical skateboard stuff, but they always
will find stuff like that.
You'll find stuff like that.
Yeah.
And you look at it and you go, I don't see how anybody ever skateboarded.
A lot of my
stuff.
British skateboard buddies from later, like Shane Rouse or something, they have photos of this time too.
Man.
Sean Goff and all those guys. It's the same thing.
Yeah.
We had like on the schoolyard, we built a bunch of these ramps. It's the posters when there's a voting season is on or something. It's like whoever vote for this guy, but it was made of this bendy material. That's perfect.
Okay.
Make sure you don't get stuck in the
Sure.
little. Yeah.
We would always use street signs and stuff.
Stuff like that.
The metal was very pliable, to get over that little lip of the
Exactly.
corner ramp. Yeah.
But that was the early days.
Yeah.
But that's how you did it. You did everything too. We would go downhill skating, we would go slalom, and then we've practiced the parallel slalom so long now. We need to do the giant slalom thing. So you find a street and you did everything. You did barrel jump, you did high jump. It was all part of it. And then, but more and more, the transition part of it came in.
Sure.
That became. I have very cool early photos of me on that aluminum double kickboard. But then by the time with ACS 500 and Powerpaw 50/50 wheels, which I talked to Russ Howell a lot about, and he had a lot to say about those wheels later, like recently, because I wanted to reassemble that board and find these wheels. He's like, don't even bother, they fall apart. I know.
Right. Yeah, they'd split.
Yeah. But all of that time, I don't want to sum it up now. You can keep asking other questions, but I just need people to understand that it is something that shapes you in every way. Everything you do, I do like I did that. You have to fight for your information. I really loved that. I invested in something that I loved. I was hooked on skateboarding and everything around it. Meeting skateboarders. You'd go to Berlin just for a family thing, and there's a dude in Vans.
Yeah.
And you're, hey, man. And he's looking at my shoes like, hey, man.
Oh, yeah.
It's like the one skater in town.
Sure.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It was that scarce. It wasn't a lot of skaters around.
Yeah. That was like me in high school. You just find your crew. You visually who's going to be part of your team.
It's just that the crew doesn't even exist in a way.
Yeah.
You have to understand that I came back from London. I got out of Victoria when I later, like 78 that is. I went to London, saw Shogakuba, etc. I went with an army bus because my British friends are like, just come with us. No one's going to ask for your passport. And so I'm driving in an army bus. I arrive at Victoria Station. I get out, and there's people with leopard skin hair, mohawks, and I hadn't even heard of it yet.
Yeah.
Because in Germany, the news about that hadn't really spread yet.
Yeah.
It's like, what is going on? So a week later, I come home. I cut my hair. I put beer in the hair, so it's like
Nice.
I have a camouflage pullover with a Buzzcocks button.
Yeah.
And
Now
like the
we're
year before, I already went to school in like the one GNS Surfboards T-shirt that I could get.
Yeah.
Which didn't look like the shirts the kids were wearing,
Yeah.
and I had like the long surfer hair, and I somehow got a hold of like these long socks, the basketball socks, tube socks,
stripes on the top.
So I was the only kid, and people wouldn't like it.
Yeah.
People were like, "What the fuck? What are you doing?" And then I came back, listened to punk rock, and then they're like, "What are you doing now?"
Yeah.
I'm sorry, skateboarding changed.
Trying to keep up. So at this time, you're doing contests and you're skating demos back in these days?
all freestyle stuff.
Yeah. So
this is all freestyle skateboarding.
are you putting energy into contests or demos or
Demos on the side,
Yeah.
not that many.
contests
here and there.
making any little
No.
bit of pocket cash?
No,
or
there's no
anything?
pocket cash.
Trophies?
Trophies,
Yeah.
for sure.
Yeah.
And eventually in the last issue, which is the 5th issue of Skateboard Magazine in Germany, I'm actually featured in there because I got 5th in the European Championships in Munich.
Nice.
And wearing a Hobie shirt,
Yeah.
doing 360s. But it's another time the half pipe was there, so you get to skate a little more now. I practiced in my little homemade one, so... But there's now a guy from England who does a frontside air just below. There was no coping, so I'm saying below coping, but there was no coping on that thing or platforms. Because why would you need a platform up there? Because no one can get out
Just
there.
stops.
Right.
But some dude was actually almost, but doing a tuck knee frontside air.
Wow.
So I'm like, oh my God, they got better at this. Okay.
So what was the step to Eurocana summer camps?
Oh, we'd have to skip a lot of interesting info because that's in 81.
Okay. Well, let's back up then. and
Well,
get
we
the
need to back up. We need to
interesting-
back up because what happens now is, remember how I mentioned my local sports shop?
Right.
He now realizes skateboarding is cool. He wants it back in his shop.
Yeah.
Can you help me find some good stuff? Because I don't want the whatever trendy stuff that the plastic boards.
You don't want the
good
toys, you want
boards.
the pro model. Yeah.
So I'm like, I'll help you. So we drove out to the people that were selling it. What's the word here? Wholesale? No.
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
Wholesaler.
Yeah,
So there was
distributor or whatever.
distributor. Sunski was one of them. We went to Sunski. We went to Go Sports in Munich. We went to Hamburg. And I told him, let's get a couple of these. Let's get a couple of these. And he started having a skate shop with actually pretty good products. And people would buy it. My local, even however small my town was, people were skating. And he's like, we should have a team. So we called it the Rat Rollers team. And everyone had a jacket with his name on. And I was like, oh my God, this is so cool. And he goes, there's a big city fest. It's called Gütersloh Stadtfest, whatever. And I want a half pipe in front of my shop. We can make it transportable so we can use it more often.
Wow.
So now we're on to this project. So my friends, Thomas and Bernd and I were sat down in my father's office, piece of paper, and we drew something up. We didn't have, the Thrasher hasn't been out there yet, so there's no
You can't
plans.
order your ramp plans.
Yeah,
yet?
yeah,
of course.
didn't order my ramp plans yet. So we thought up how should this be done, and it was pretty much like people built ramps later. Cut out the transition part, have some 2x4s, blah blah blah. The dimensions were kind of clear, 10 foot plus a foot of vert, and like it was maybe 15 feet wide that we thought up, and eventually got a little narrow, I think. And we were so excited for 3 days and had built a model out of wood. Like, this is it. And he actually had it made.
Wow.
So we went by this wood shop where this guy was making it. He had a few questions because our plan wasn't too good, I guess. But he built that ramp. And this is also when my wife Dana, who's with us today, saw me for the very first time, not knowing that that's me.
That was 78?
That was, around 78. 79 maybe, 79.
Okay.
79 is a good
Yeah,
day.
I'd say if you're working on vert, maybe you're getting into 79.
Yeah,
80
79.
kind of era, yeah.
And we were skating half pipe. We couldn't do anything on it yet. No
Yeah.
drop-ins.
Starting in the bottom and just
Starting the bottom, but
Yeah.
like do frontside airs, but no rock and rolls or nothing
Yeah.
yet. But that's kind of it. And we had a half pipe, and he said he had a tennis hall, and we could he said there's some spot behind it. You can set up the ramp if you like.
Wow.
So then we all of a sudden had a local ramp. That's how I got better at half pipe skating.
Sure.
And this is before Eurocana skate camp, and this is also before I first met Titus, which is another team I was on.
Right.
But that's also a funny one. I mean, it happened around the same time. So we had the half pipe. We got good in the half pipe. Eventually built a platform because we needed it. Drop-ins, rock and roll, whatever, sweepers. We could do that stuff.
Right.
80 maybe then. Oh, no, I got to tell you about one little thing that happened in 79 before I forget it because it's important because the same thing happened twice, but like in different time zones in a way. So we're in Italy on a family vacation, and I'm practicing for these European championships that I talked about where the half pipe was and everything. We're doing a vacation, but I also have my board with me.
Sure.
We go to a local sports shop looking for shoes, and there's a poster, U.S. freeformer team, demo tomorrow. Mind blown.
Yeah.
Ty Page is going to be here. What's the high jumper guy that they had?
God, what was his name?
He jumped like over Porsches and stuff like that.
Brian Beardsley.
That's the one.
Yeah.
It's like, oh my God, they're all going to be here. It's crazy. My cousin was there. She spoke Italian, so she's like, "Is it tomorrow?" He's like, "Yeah, domani, tomorrow." Okay.
Nice.
All right. Whew. I'm excited now. When are they coming? Oh, it starts at 10. All right, we'll be here at 10. Go back to the hotel, do the beach thing, whatever. I'm excited. Put on my Hobie shirt. And we go there, and there's a lot of people there. Also in free-former shirts, some of them, but not the American team yet. No one can really skate well. They're tic-tacking. Yeah. And I'm stacking 3 boards to do handstands on.
Yeah.
You know.
So you're
I'm
far
skating.
and away
I'm
better
warming
than
up.
anybody.
I'm doing the 360s. People stop skating. Everyone's watching. I'm doing my bit. Like a week later, I became 5th in the European Championship. So I was good, right?
Yeah.
Awesome.
And then the guy who runs the shop, I see him. It's like, when is the team arriving? He's like, and he points in a corner. There's these Italians hiding. He's like, the team is here. I said, what? It's that U.S. team. He's like, no. From Italy, from Milano. I'm like, okay.
Oh my gosh.
So, but we did some, like, I super included them, and so we did like cool stuff together.
Nice.
You know, we pulled up a pretty cool show together.
Yeah.
Now, my mother says, this is years later in 79, 80 or something. My mother goes, there's an American team in like a half hour away from here in a city called Hum. And they're having a show with the half pipe. And it says, American team. I'm like, oh my God, I hope this is an American team.
Yeah.
My friend Uli and I drive there. By this time, we're like in rector shorts with leopard skin. You know, on the like sewn onto the shorts.
Punk rock skateboarding.
Skateboarding, you know, flyaway helmet. We're like, let's go. We get to the ramp. It's this enormous transportable half pipe, no flat bottoms, super big transitions. Got a big Titus logo on it.
Okay.
The dudes are skating well below coping, just kick turning. They do like a thing where they skate 6 of them at the same time.
Right.
And there's this guy with the stash.
On what? On roller skates.
On roller skates. And he seemed like the one in charge, and I said, it was Titus. And I said, so when is the U.S. team arriving? And he's looking at me with this like, well, who are you to say? He's like, we are the team. Are you saying you can do better than this? Yeah. And I'm like, can we give it a go?
So you're having a deja vu of the Italy team.
Totally. It was the same thing.
Yeah.
And I was like, can we try? He's like, yeah. So I'm climbing up the ramp. There's a mini platform that they built because I don't know why, because no one was reaching the top. But and I do a drop in. Crowd is going berserk because all day they'd been seeing people kick turn below coping. Now this guy climbs all the way up. They're like, who is this guy?
Right.
We're doing frontside airs, 4 wheels out. We're doing little rock and rolls, Kess slides or Cess slides, whatever you call them.
Cess slides, yeah.
And then so we're done with the demo, and Titus, that's Uli and me, right?
Right.
So, and then Titus looks at me, he's like, you want to join the team? I'm like, yeah. So then the whole doing demos and stuff got a little more serious.
How long before that had you started dropping in? I mean, that was because those guys weren't even doing that at the time, right? So was that blowing minds?
Well,
to see
because
you
we came back from England and Shogo had kind of led the way, and there was a lot of the great English skaters at the time. I was with a guy called, oh God, I wish I knew now, Lee Vukaneri, and he was good. They would drop in. I learned how to axle in on my first day of riding a pool. I don't know why I chose to axle in. Right? Yeah. But I did it. I had no pads on because I didn't bring any. We're freestylers. Yeah. All of a sudden, someone says, here's Rolling Thunder Skate Park, the biggest indoor skate park ever built in the UK. And there's a pool. And they were axle in. That's what they did. I'm like, that's got to be doable. Yeah. I did it. I learned frontside grinds the first day. I was fast. I learned fast. And so by this time, we're doing axle ins, drop ins, all of that. We learned quickly. And so, no wonder. We were good. And they hadn't gotten the message yet. You know, they hadn't seen the UFO yet. We had. There's Shogo. There's the Brits. They already knew how it's done.
Do you recall who was a part of that U.S. team beyond at that time? Who was a part of that when you saw that? Who was skating on the U.S. team at that time? Do you recall?
U.S. team? Oh, the thing is, there was no U.S. team at that show. It was just the Titus guys.
Oh, it was literally just them.
Like his local boys.
Yeah,
you know, he was a teacher at the time.
Gotcha.
He wasn't like selling skateboards yet.
Yeah.
He was a teacher, and he was a sports teacher. And as part of his program, he taught skateboarding. So those kids went with him. He had bought a half pipe from someone, and but then we had already seen the light. You know what I mean?
Right.
Which is important in skateboarding.
Yeah.
Someone kind of needs to take you by the hand and say, "This is how it's done."
Right.
And then someone had already done that with my friend Uli and I. So we were later able to show everybody else. So this is how you do that. No. We've been to London. We skated all the parks. We know.
Yeah.
This is not how you do it. This is how you do it, right? But it's kind of cool because when you go to these places, you meet these amazing people. You become a part of their scene also. Like I said, first a sports shop in about town, then the actual skate shop, Surrey Skateboards, then Calypso Skateboards, CS Skateboards, and then now we're with Titus, And he was about to go off in his little thing.
Right.
And we were right there when it happened. Everything that he did and decided to do, he checked with us. It was a good time. It was great.
And did that lead to your first pro model?
Eventually, yes. Yes, pretty shortly after, maybe 81. He asked me, he had a shop. Skateboarding was going off, but not as a big trend, but like amongst skateboarders.
Right.
It was a worldwide phenomenon that you couldn't stop. We weren't where we were in 85 when Gator had the cover and he was signing a skateboard on the cover of Transworld, which is when skateboarding hit in a very big way. But we were already where it was incredibly interesting to skateboard. And it was definitely, you could sell them in a shop and do okay. He was still doing the teaching job on the side, but he had a skate shop. He was importing Vans shoes and Powell boards and whatnot, and we were a part of that. So, but with him it was different because I can only compare him to the Scorpions, the band The Scorpions. They came from Germany as well, but they were destined for big success. And you can feel that in someone. This is a guy who wants a local skate shop and do well with the local guys, or is this someone who writes music, and to use the Scorpions as an example again, or are they writing stuff that's destined to be worldwide? And so Titus had a little more of that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
He wasn't so much like, let's push the local scene, which he did.
Yeah.
But let's have a brand. You should have a board.
Yeah.
Come up with some graphics, that sort of thing. And I'm like, oh, he's next level.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Kind of
next
sights
level.
on bigger goals.
Because with the other teams, you'd get a board and that's it.
Right.
Calypso gave me in my life, gave me one board.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I'm sponsored by Calypso, And I rode that board everywhere I went.
Yeah.
But with Titus, it's like, how many boards per month are you going to need? So you're like, oh my God, this is serious.
This is
team
legit,
shirts,
yeah.
team stickers. Let's have a magazine, that kind of stuff. Well, actually, I said let's have a magazine, but who cares? But you'd have these ideas, and he would make them happen. It's good. You need someone like that. Yeah, you said let's have a board. Let's do a board, and the board was gonna be a Mike McGill board. Like Powell would send him blanks, and he would have the local guy reshape them. But
so
my
it was McGill shape, but then you had some input.
The shape that I came up with fit within the size of a Mike McGill board. And we loved the wood and the concave.
Yeah.
But now think up a graphic, right? Which is another very important moment in time because I'm like, okay, well, it would be good because I knew. Can I say something that's going to sound weird? But I also know some people are going to understand. When you're good at something, then you're good at something. You don't question that. If you can sing well, it's not something that no one can put that down. I can sing.
Yeah.
Give me a mic, I'll sing. Any good singer will agree with me. And I knew I'm a good skater. So I was like, it's not going to be the last model board that I have. I should have a topic that runs through whatever I bring out from now on. Even if it's just with this guy.
Yeah.
But I didn't want to go from this on that board and a flower on that board. I wanted a topic. And what really was a topic that I was thinking about a lot was time.
Yeah.
Right.
And I was like, wouldn't it be great to just have a clock on there? And then I'm looking through some books that my father had, and I found a British Airways ad where two planes are pulling a clock apart. And I sort of, my memory of that, I drew that up, which is the board you later made, Bo. Yeah. And that's my actual drawing on a skateboard.
Really?
And they just sort of scanned it from that.
Right.
I just used a Sharpie and
straight
drew
to
that
the board.
straight to the board.
That's awesome.
And I said to Titus, this is the shape that I want, because he gave me a blank, and I said, this is the shape that I want, and this is the graphic that I want. He's like, all right, cool. So that's how that all started with the clocks and everything. But it's also a guy like Titus who recognized the talent and recognized that there can be more than just having the guy on the team. Let's make him a board. It was a popular board. You know, whoever skated at the time wrote that board. It's a light blue board with a pink graphic on. I don't own one anymore.
Yeah,
no one does.
Say.
What I do have is a Madrid longboard.
Okay.
That is painted in the same color as that board was painted, and silkscreened the same day those boards were made. That's what I have.
So same
but
graphic.
I don't act. It's the same
Just
graphic.
on a
I just
longboard,
said, well, if you're doing those boards, can you do this one as well?
Right.
That longboard?
Yeah.
That we use for the cats so they can jump on?
We used it. We put it for a year or so. It was a door stopper at the house. Until I realized it's actually a pretty good part of history. I'm actually still thinking I should probably give it to Titus, because I think he would love it. I think he would love to have that, because no one has that board anymore.
Right.
Sure.
Put it up
I've
in
not
this
seen
museum.
one.
What about time? Why was that? Why was that so prevalent in your mind? Is the passing of? I mean, was it just the way you were progressing in skating and just the quick move passing of time? I mean, what do you think drew you to that theme?
I think the last one, I think because there was so much on my mind and so many things that I wanted to do, but I didn't have enough time. You couldn't get up early enough to get all that stuff done.
Yeah.
We again, we're jumping here, and that's totally fine because we have to, because there's just too much stories to be told. But I said to Titus at one point, we're going to need a magazine if you want to connect people, because my information, as you were talking about earlier, was hard to get. I wanted to make it more accessible for people. And the magazines that were out were basically not really done by skateboarders, not even that German magazine. It was done in a way that a newspaper would report. It wasn't written in a cool way. Right? So I was like,
third person kind of.
Yeah. And then he did great on the last kickflip and landed it to, It's like, no, that's not how you write about a contest. You write about the party afterwards.
You got to say gnarly for one thing.
There you go. Gnarly. Which in German, that word doesn't even exist. I'm thinking which one that would be. But no, they don't. Yeah. They would probably say gnarly as well. And so we had a magazine. I was doing the magazine. I was doing the graphics for it. Was taking most of the photos for it, and I was doing the layout, and then gave it to Titus. He had it printed up, and then we sent it to whoever. He got some ads going so we could finance the thing. So that's what I'm doing. I'm not yet in a band, but I'm about to be in a band too, which takes up more of my time. But then you travel from skate spot to skate spot, contests. I didn't have enough time. So basically, I think that sparked the idea of thinking about it. Maybe I saw Dali's picture with
the melting clock,
persistence, and the melting clock one. That's a big one too. But I think I saw that after. I think I saw that after, because the first clock that on my board is one that's, like I said, pulled apart by planes, because to see there's time zones in the world, and British Airways is so fast that they just surpass the time zones. But it was just a thing. I was in school, time wouldn't pass. I would, count the seconds. When is this going to be over?
That's how it goes.
And that's how that goes, and that's how the interest came up.
Won't pass, and then when you're out
but then, how strong of an image is a clock in any shape or form? So that's kind of how that went, and it felt good because I knew, I can keep doing this, for as long as I feel is a good idea.
How many models did you have on Titus?
They tried a couple of different people, like Uncle Wiggly, for instance, ones. That kind of failed. I thought the boards were great, but people were breaking them. He also tried a German company, and people were also breaking those. So, and every different one, we had slightly different graphics. Like the clock changed a little bit with every board, and then it would say B wood or by wood. and the other one was called 7-ply or whatever. So I think there was about between 5 or 7 different ones.
Different graphics too?
Yeah.
Kind of updates to the same theme about that? Wow.
All kind of like most of them based on that board, but the last ones were, the last one I had was a big fish eating a small fish, but there was still a clock in there. But that was another idea of mine, and you know, like there's always a big fish eating the smaller one, and that you know, and that line goes on and on and on. But that was the last one. Yeah.
Do you have any of those boards?
Yes, I have all of the ones except for the first one.
Wow.
There's a lot, trust me, a lot of people are contacting me about it. It's like, what are you doing with those boards? I'm like, they're in the cellar somewhere in the cupboard. I'm not hanging them or anything, but we do have them.
You were traveling all over Germany, all over continental Europe, and then you started going to Scandinavia and back to UK and meeting with American pros, or when did you start really getting involved in more of the American/international skate scene?
I want to say it's 81 because I went to the Hurricane skate camp in Rättvik. Rättvik, I think is what they call that. Sorry, my Swedish friends. It's by a big lake, and it's a summer camp that the year before, I believe, was also done by Steve Caballero and McGill, and the year before that was done by Stacy Peralta and Alan Gelfand. It's a 3-week camp. You stay in a hut, and you just skate with whoever's there. And I went in 81, and it was the last time that McGill and Caballero did it together. And Per Velinde was doing, and it's also, he's pronounced probably Per Velinde. Yeah. And but you get the drift. He was there as a freestyle guy, and there's a half pipe, a little skate park, the huts. You get fed food, and people pay money for it. I paid money. First time I went, I was just one of the guys who wanted to be a part of it.
You were a camper.
Drove out there, stayed for 3 weeks, and those were really like the first new school American guys I met. And wow, Caballero and McGill in their heyday.
Crazy.
I mean, you know, you'd arrive at the ramp. I didn't skate the first day. I couldn't. I just sat and watched. Plus, the Swedes were really good. Hans Puttes Jakobsen.
Right.
And Bauta was awesome. Mikael Folksson was awesome. Some of the Danes were there, too. You got, like, everyone from Europe just gathered in this little town by the lake to do all of that, which now people call history of skateboarding, but it's right there, and it happens, and you're a part of it. I was too nervous. I didn't even skate. Just watched them skate. Then skated with them. I was super sketchy at the time, so I'm told. This is a guy from Sweden called Puttes. He keeps telling me it's like he doesn't understand how I went to that camp. I hung up on almost every air I ever did. And a year later, I was by far the best skater in all of Europe.
Yeah.
He says, what happened? And I said, I was inspired. I went home. I used the inspiration and just got better.
Yeah.
That's it. I was on my own with 2 friends at our local ramp, that little shitty ramp that the local sports store built, and just perfected it. There was no more hang-ups, no more nothing. But yeah, that was that. That was the first time I went. And the second time I went to do anything international was about a half year later, which is what Puttes is referring to. I, without telling my parents, this is, by the way, that's only possible in those days. Like, no phones, no one could track you. Whatever. I just went to Berlin to visit some friends. Took a plane from Berlin to London and skated in the European Championships in Crystal Palace.
Oh my god!
And got second, which I thought was great. And called my parents on the Sunday. I'd been away from home for 4 days. Put in 50 pence in the telephone booth. I called home and said, hey, just wanted to let you know, I'm in London. I got like second in the European Championships, and I'll be home tomorrow. And my mom's like, okay. And that's it. And
you think she would have been more upset if you placed worse in the contest?
What my parents
decided by second place. So she said, "Yeah, that's fine."
Well, my parents, whenever I came home and I'd won something, you'd always get the same thing.
Yeah.
You have to tidy up your room. It looks like a mess. It didn't matter. They picked me up for my first contest in Bielefeld that I won, which I thought was outrageous that I did.
Yeah.
And my father's sitting in the car going, "You want to see your room? You really need to clean up your room." So they didn't. It wasn't a big deal for them yet. They later had an epiphany how good of a thing it is that I was doing, but at that time it was all my crazy little antics that I was doing.
Were they supportive though, and receptive to what you're? Did they understand? Or
My mother was.
Yeah.
She would always drive me to whatever, when we had in Bielefeld, when we had the skate practice. So there was a little hill that we bombed, and she would always drive us there and pick us up later.
Yeah.
But she was also not too fond of me skating. I wasn't good in school. I wasn't paying much attention.
Yeah.
I was drawing skateboard things and working on the magazine on the side while I'm apparently having a math class. But I was, you know. So, no. And my father later became supportive, but he wasn't supportive enough, unfortunately. I thought that when I was at my very best, which is when Spidey and Steve Keenan came over and stayed at my house for like 3 months or something, and he wanted to get me on Santa Cruz skateboards. He called Tim Piamater and said, I found the new Lester Kazai. Really, put him on the team immediately, right? And I said, no, I'm with Titus, and I can't really go anywhere. That's fine. But I was, I believe, really, really good then, and I should have flown out, but my parents were like, no, you're not going. So only when independent trucks picked me up, I was riding for Tracker before, but independent eventually picked me up and they flew me out. So I could go because they paid the money, right? But before I couldn't go. So my parents found out later that they should have been supportive. It's not like they're great parents, trust me,
Sure.
but like it just wasn't that thing.
They didn't quite understand.
He's a painter, and he's like, you know, I should work in that company or whatever, in that field. He was more conservative that way. And I absolutely get it, 100%, because he's a provider, and he did a perfect job at that. It's just that my head was in a complete different space. I couldn't get out of that space. I still think it's a good thing that I didn't.
Yeah.
And I just followed my talent and my dreams, and that's it, you know. But so supportive in the way that, providing a house and money and food and whatnot, yes, even driving me to things, but definitely always pushing me to do something else there. Can you
have a career?
Yeah.
Have a career, which I started one in 86.
Yeah.
This is, I was not riding for Madrid anymore.
Right.
I had done the Vancouver World Championships for you guys, and then went home and started a job because my parents had sort of pressured me into doing that, learning a job for 3 years. And then, but
we probably jumped a bit there. So when Independent flew you out, no, you're fine. Was that your first trip to the States as kind of a sponsor?
That was my first trip to the States, and it was a short one.
Yeah.
Because I tore my ligaments in the shoulder eventually. But it was my first trip. It was 85. I was riding for Powell. So riding for Titus before,
Titus
and it did what it did, and it was great, and I won a lot of competitions. Half pipe was a big thing. Maybe we should mention some stuff from that time, because the magazine, the Monster Skateboard magazine, was invented in those days, and then also I told Titus, we should have a competition. You know that, right? You have a skate park here. You got like these fiberglass half pipes in Munster, set up a skate park. And I said, people have contests in these things, you know? It's not just freestyle and slalom.
Yeah.
So, because my nickname given to me by some Brits was the Munster Monster.
Strong I see where we're going with this. Right? Yeah.
We decided to call the contest the Munster Monster Mastership because it's MMM, you know, we kind of like that. He was in. He's like, yeah. The good part is you have this idea. I'm a creative mind. That's what I do. But a creative mind always needs someone to help make it happen.
Yeah.
Titus is perfect at that. So he organized the contest, got all the things that you need. Who's going to be a judge? We need a megaphone. Where are people going to sleep? Oh, there's like a big sports thing from the local school. Everyone can sleep on the floor. Bring your mattresses and sleeping bags. People from all over Europe came. First half-pipe contest. Big thing. Big deal. Right? So that went on for a while, and then got into an ice skating hall, like a ice hockey hall, and it got bigger, and then also that was in 85, maybe 84, 85, and it exploded. Skateboarding phenomenon came right back, but those were very important times when the half pipe thing really started happening, really went off. You know, that whole culture, I had a band then. You know, people had bands, and punk rock was happening, and skateboarding had a look.
Yep.
You know, people caught on to it. I got invited to parties all of a sudden. That thing you did way back then, we were laughing about you. Yeah. Hey, that's pretty hot right now. Why'd you come to the party tonight?
That's how that goes.
You're the celebrity.
Yeah. So what was your transition, or who was your connect at Powell when you ended up going to Powell from Titus? How did that come about?
George actually came over. That's how that went back in the days. Actually came over to Germany, stayed a couple of days.
Had he heard of you prior? He came over to check.
Yeah, people had told him about it. I was already writing for Powell Wheels.
Okay.
That just sort of happened through Titus. Titus didn't have any wheels, so I was writing for Tracker and Powell Wheels at the time. And then George came over, and eventually we drove to the ISPO, which is a sports exhibition in Munich, a huge one. And so we got to spend time and made it happen. And then my main contact was then Stacy, of course. And when I skated in '85, when I skated the Virginia Beach contest, the one that I mentioned where a Gator on the cover is signing boards.
Right.
Yeah.
Skateboarding exploded that day.
Right.
It was like the biggest thing. Skateboarding became a mass phenomenon. But I was riding a Ray Bones Rodriguez board there. I wasn't riding my own boards anymore, like Indies, Rat Bones, and a Ray Bones board, you know. But under the promise that at some point you're going to have a model here with us. So I was like, wow, super stoked. And so we're actually talking about that with Stacy the whole time. Communication at the time is weird because you write letters, or once a month you can call for like a minute because it's expensive. Yeah. Not like nowadays, you know, where it's really like on your iPhone with a picture. It's science fiction to me still. So that board came out and I quit. It just wasn't what I wanted. It wasn't, the shape wasn't right. All the communication has been disregarded, and I wasn't happy.
And it's a diversion away from the clocks, right? What happened with the graphic?
I still think that's why. I think history had a say in it.
Maybe.
So like, what are you doing, man?
Yeah. Was that your call? Did you
Yeah, it was my call.
Consciously?
Yeah, I should have gone for their actual graphic artist because he's fantastic. I should have told him do something with clocks. Yeah. Trust me, it would have been the best Powell graphic ever. I still think I should talk to this guy and say, let's do something together. It was meant to be.
Yeah.
You're just waiting to work on a melting clock.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But no. Look, I had to do everything. My son will tell you that's how I am. Yeah. It's a problem sometimes, too. I have to be in control because nothing would have happened if I hadn't been in control myself, if I didn't do it back in those days. So even in situations where I could possibly let go, I usually don't. Yeah. I want to be in control. So at Powell, I said, I have a graphic. I drew up this flame face. I liked it. I did it at my job that I was at the time. And they liked it. So I'm still okay with the graphic. It's just a diversion from the clock idea, which I don't understand. Yeah. I wish I could like open my mind from back then and say, what are you doing?
Yeah.
But that's just how that happened. And it was also a time where maybe some of the other, because I remember, what's his name? Steve Stedham also had a different looking board than the other Powell boards. So maybe that was sort of the time to do something else. I wish I could tell you more about that, but that's kind of what it was. I did a graphic. Here it is. Do you like it? Yes. Okay, let's do it. Then I was writing a couple of test boards, as you do with them. And then I find out through a telephone call with Stacy that he didn't think too much of European skateboarders, and that he didn't think this should be a worldwide skateboard. We should like try to sell this in Europe first, because you're a European. Right. I'm like, is that a disease? What's the problem here? As we know, the history in skateboarding has proved him wrong because, you're not really winning the Olympics, are you? It's other countries doing that now. Right. So, and that's okay. He probably had his reasons, and maybe some of it was lost in translation somewhere. I still think, to this day, a proper video conference call with everybody involved would have solved whatever problem he or I had, and would have been good. But a week later, my first actual production boards come in. They made like 50 or so to just start off some core shops and get some product to the pros, and what do you think of this? And it was longer than I thought. It was wider than I thought. The nose was kind of the same as it was on my Madrid board. Oh, really? The Madrid board resembles what my actual Powell shape was, because, but it wasn't right. So I called him and said, look, I'm out. I'm done.
Yeah.
So
they only produced like 50
To my knowledge, yes. Now, someone at the company would know better. You ask someone here, like, do you really always know, whoever you work with, do you really always know the numbers, back, especially when they're handmade like that? Yeah. To my knowledge, they made like 50. And they made different colors. They wanted to see what's good. I mean, they were good that way. Yeah. My favorite one was the silver one. I got sent 4. I rode one of them. and then threw it away once I quit, but I kept the other 3 and sold all 3 in the meantime for record amounts of money, you know.
Have they reissued that board over the years?
They've reissued
sure.
4 times now with different colors, because I'm really super okay with all of that. I'm kind of proud of that part. Sure. And I was super happy the day the first reissue came, because officially now I have a Powell board, which I really never really had. It was really never for sale. You know, so that's kind of cool. That's a big moment when you get your board and it's got the top graphic and it says Powell Peralta 2021 or whatever. They've done 4 different colors off it, and I'm in regular contact with them. And
cool.
You know, so that's cool. That was a big step away from Titus to go somewhere else. But what's more important is my next step, which I'm excited to talk about.
Were you feeling defeated when you had to kind of walk away from Powell? Were you just like,
quite
on
the
to the
opposite.
next? Let's just move on.
Again, it comes with talent, comes a certain cockiness about things. You know, I wasn't like, if you think about it nowadays, you talk to someone nowadays, they're like, how could you just call Stacy and quit? But you talk to Mike Vallely about it. He had a bit of a frustrating time there.
Right.
We've been on tour with him and got to talk about it in length. Wasn't always easy. Certain people don't match. You know, so within their actual Bones Brigade, those people clicked and matched. And rightfully so. They have nothing to say great things about that whole structure. But for me, that wasn't the kind of structure I needed. You know what I needed? I needed Bo Brown in my life. Trust me, it's true. Someone who just come to us, we'll get it done. Was there ever a question to make a board for just Europe? Are you kidding me? No. Let's make a worldwide board. What do you want? What do you need? That's it. It happened super quickly. My graphics improvised. All the clocks on the boards were in my wife's house. They're all mostly clocks and watches from Serbia, because she's Serbian.
Finn, actually, you told me that at SkaterCon, or that's the first time I heard it. You were like, actually, that was like my grandfather's clock on the, I forget the full story, but
it's my grandpa's red clock, right?
All of those clocks were in her house. I photographed them. My friend Florian Bohm photographed me in my garden, lying on the floor, pretending I'm floating in space. I thought I definitely wanted to go back to the clock theme. I'm like, okay, it was probably right that this didn't work out. Let's go here. So, you know, photocopy machine, put that together, sent you guys the graphics. Boom, there it goes. Board turned out great. It was fantastic. I went back to the States for the second time. This time, not like I was supposed to be picked up by Fausto, Vitello, and Mofo, and they never even, like back then in 85, no one ever picked me up in Virginia Beach. I found a guy on the street with a Thrasher shirt, some dude. Are you going to be at the contest over the weekend? Yeah, I'm in the contest, but I don't have a place to stay. Stay with me.
Wow.
That's how that went.
Well, so again, we took a little bit of a step, but so post-Powell, how did Madrid come into the picture?
Can you elaborate on that?
Well, what I remember, because at that point, Titus was our distributor. I think we'd gone through Fonder first, and then we were at Titus. And Titus and Jorg would come out all the time to California. They would buy this big Cadillac. Every time they bought a different Cadillac convertible.
Of course you would.
Just rolling fat. So we had a really good relationship with Titus. I would talk to the old man and Jorg all the time. And you definitely were on the radar. Everybody knew Claus Grabke. It was, after Trashmore, and I had heard about Hurricana, and there's something I want to talk to you about Hurricana too, some controversy there. But I remember the old man, Titus, calling us up and saying, listen, Claus left Powell, wasn't happy, and, you guys were doing a lot with you. We love the way you work, and we think Claus would be a good fit. And I'm like, we get a chance to have Claus? Fuck yeah, let's jump on it right now.
Right.
And I think I'd probably met you at Trashmore.
You did, yes.
Riding Powell boards, and I was so upset. But, with Madrid, we were a small company, so we were family. Putis was riding for us at the time as well. we had started to build up a European team. Putis, Steve Douglas, God, I can't remember who all else. And to us, it wasn't like a European team or an East Coast team. It was the Madrid team. We were family. So to have you be part of that family was like, there was no question. It was like our brothers coming back into the fold, but you hadn't even skated for us yet.
Yeah.
So that's how I remember it all coming down.
I remember it the same way. I had a conversation with Titus. Said, yeah, I quit Powell. He's like, really? He was like,
which was the biggest team in the world at that point.
And I explained. He's like, no, I understand. Let me talk to Madrid. I'm like, yeah, I'd be stoked. You guys have the cool boards out. You know, I was like, yeah, that's awesome. You were much more the type of fit that I needed. That's just what I'm saying. I need a certain group of people that just match how I am and how I work, and that's what I found, you know. Especially when I came out here. You picked me up, and I was able to stay at your place, and you showed me around, and the company was so good at the time. I spent quite a lot of time at the actual factory.
Yeah.
We later got to do the East Coast tour with Joe Bowers and all of those guys.
At that picture right there?
Oh, I didn't see it yet.
Yeah.
Oh, awesome. I got to go see it.
Yeah, that was the MTech tour.
Yes, fantastic. Still have the shirt.
Yeah, I was talking to
so
Smith
all the
about
good
that.
stuff happened, and it was on a level that was much more fitting, you know. Here I was one of the guys, you know.
Yeah.
I wasn't someone to be discussed. I was
Yeah.
one of the guys. They took me serious and took the talent that I brought to the table serious, and so I thought it was a very successful time, you know.
And you could get your shape right? You could
Get my shape
get
right
the shape on
and
the
make
board, right?
actual dollars.
Yeah.
Not a bad thing
Yeah.
to get a paycheck, you know, which I hadn't gotten before.
Yeah.
You know, I gotten like my flight costs paid for and hotels and stuff.
Yeah.
But no one ever sold a board and said, "Here's money." Like Titus didn't. I just, you know, and he couldn't. So I don't blame him for it. You know, much later when he did like reissues of them and stuff, yes, then there's some kind of a payment involved. But Madrid was definitely the first actual sponsor, what you would call a sponsor, that doesn't just send you a box with a little bit of product, but like being involved in all of that, the personal involvement that you brought to the table, fantastic. Jerry too, same thing.
Oh, yeah.
Like you said, it's a big family, and everyone felt that way.
Yeah, that picture over on our wall,
Let me see that picture. Let me walk over there real quick.
Yeah. It's got, that was East Coast tour, the MTech tour, when we had just,
Oh my God.
we had just introduced the MTech Concave, and it's Mike Smith, Jamie Mossberg, Danforth,
Yeah.
Bryce, Joe Bowers, Florian Bohm, and you and Greg Smith, right?
Yeah, Florian didn't do the tour. He only joined for like one of the stops. He was riding for Titus,
Right.
and he joined us for I think the last two stops maybe. That's why he's on the photo there. But
Right.
the actual tour was I don't know who the guy with the black hair is in that photo. Is
Oh,
that
that's Schmelzer.
Schmelzer, of course, yeah. No, Schmelzer is on the left.
Okay, over there?
Yeah.
That's Joe Bowers.
Oh, it is Joe. He just had his hair different. Yeah, yeah.
Right,
And then Jamie
right.
Mossberg. Yeah, yeah.
Moss, yeah.
Yeah, it was a fantastic tour, man. We rented two, I think, Chevys or something, like
Yeah.
old Chevys, and just drove around. It was fantastic. It was incredible. See the East Coast like that. Actually cover some ground. Don't just go to contests, but actually do like demos at shops and
right.
Sure, you skated like quarter ramps, right? Board slide thing.
Whatever
That's it.
anybody would
Yeah.
have.
I didn't.
Yeah.
That it's the only problem there was is that shortly thereafter was the Vancouver World Championships,
Right.
and I hadn't really skated halfpipe much. I learned McTwist before this, and I couldn't really do it on that entire tour because all the ramps were super small demo ramps.
Right.
And so it's in the film about the World Championships how I tried the McTwist there in my run.
Yeah,
I wasn't able to practice it at all for like 2 months. So I lost that trick, but we were blown away. Lanson, so what I didn't tell you, or what we didn't elaborate on, is that I was at the Eurocana camp with Steve Cavallero and Mike McGill, but the next year I already became one of the coaches.
Right.
So I went fast from paying to see someone skate to I'm the coach here.
Yeah.
And I did it for 3 years.
Yeah.
And so I also did it in the year when Mike invented the McTwist. I did it with Lance Mountain, and later I did one camp with Billy Ruff and Neil Blender, but always with Rodney as a freestyle guy.
Nice.
So, no, Mike one day went out in the morning by himself, practiced that thing, and came back and with an incredible look on his face says, "I got something you need to see."
Wow.
And then it was like seeing a UFO landing. It
Right.
was like,
Yeah, that's
oh my
history
God.
right there.
And the first ones weren't quite as upside down as he later
Right.
made. I think that turned into that once he went to Del
Right,
Mar.
an actual McTwist
Yeah,
rather
it
than
was,
just a
but it was
540.
already getting there, and it was incredible to see.
Wow.
And I don't think, I'm sure people have talked about doing a 540 of sorts, but gave up trying undercoping. I think Mike just realized you have to do it very high
Yeah.
to have the time, and then sort of deal with
Right.
the landing somehow, which
And
was a
not
problem.
hang up.
And not hanging up.
Yeah.
So that was the year when we also shot that incredible triple photo.
Right.
That's Lance grinding frontside, me doing a frontside air, and Mike doing alley-oop backside air over us. So that was in the mag a lot, and it was a big one. But that's the kind of place when you go to a camp like that for 3 weeks and you have a perfect half pipe and you have great skaters there, then people start working on stuff. Tony, a year later or something, or 2 years later, invented the 720 there. That's just kind of what happens, you know.
It's like like an incubator.
Yeah,
It's where
like Gons went to the French camp that they had and did like the first stalefish and stuff. It's what people do. It's like skaters among skaters for a long time, bored, let's skate. But no, it's I can tell you 100% Mike McGill landed that thing, imagined that thing, and did it. I wish I would have woken up earlier that day to just, you know, sneak, be after him and watch from a distance and see what he was doing there by himself.
Yeah.
Not with like anyone there to catch his fall if needed or nothing. And no, much later I did mine, but they weren't even that great.
How much later would you say before you
A
were?
year?
Yeah.
It was a very, very big trick.
Yeah.
It sort of split the group of skaters
Right,
in
right.
half.
Yeah.
If
You
couldn't
either
do
became
that,
one of those
right.
guys or that's it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's a dangerous move. You know, you could still look at someone like Jeff Phillips. You could still win contests and not do the trick
Yeah.
by just having a great run. But nowadays, it's impossible. You can't spin more than a 360, then what are you doing here?
Right.
You know, like 10-year-olds spinning 900s.
Yeah.
But those are different times.
Yeah.
I don't even think that skateboarding defined itself by the level of skateboarding. It's a lot more about personality,
Yeah.
I think. It's a lot more about what are you bringing to the table as a person rather than, oh, you're doing this trick and you're not. But the McTwist maybe was the first trick to start changing that a little bit. It's not so much, oh, Neil is the funny guy. It's more like, oh, Neil's not doing the McTwist.
Right. Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah, you're right. It really did separate. You either did the McTwist or you were eighth or below.
Right. And
And
now
that was
Jimmy
it.
Wilkins is doing an ollie McTwist like it's nothing.
Yeah. It's
Like far out, you know.
yeah,
Crazy.
It's almost like watching like a Jackie Chan movie or
Yeah.
something.
I'm thinking
where-
if he would have arrived at the camp with like a time machine and pulled that trick,
where would we be now? We'd be doing, you know,
where are we going to be? I don't
Yeah.
know.
Skating on the moon.
I kind of hope that skateboarding, like I really think that skateboarding is the funnest when it's a thing for more people than just an elite group.
Yeah.
That's why contest skating is one thing, and it's even for me fun to watch that thing because you can now watch it online when it happens. It's fun to see that, but the essence of skateboarding is something else.
Yeah.
And that you can't forget. You know, so let him have that trick. I love it. It felt great for Mike to do it. We actually watched him hurt his knee in France a couple of months later doing that trick.
Yeah.
So he lost it for a little bit and then got it back and maybe lost it again. I'm not sure. Maybe, Mike, can you still do it? I hope you can. He's still in good shape, so he might be. But it's a definite important moment in time, you know.
yeah. So you came to Vancouver in '86.
Correct.
and you didn't just do vert though or ramps. You did everything, didn't you?
Right. I skated freestyle, and I skated the bowl thing.
Yeah.
I did good in half pipe and bowl. Not so good in freestyle.
Yeah.
But that's because you have to make a decision. Are you going to be Pierre-Andre Sunny-Zersch or Rodney or not, which means you have to just do that one thing.
Right.
But I still love doing it. It's fun. I didn't have a routine put together or nothing, but I was like, whatever, let's do it. I like that. I like slalom. I like downhill. I like all of those parts of skateboarding. I see myself like an all-round skateboarder, or in my words, as a skateboarder.
Right. It is. It's skateboarding.
Right.
I'm probably going to alienate some of our listeners, but even with longboards, if it's got trucks, it's got wheels, and it's got a board, it's a skateboard.
Well, I follow you guys on Instagram, and I see the downhill videos, and that's so gnarly.
That's crazy.
I couldn't do that.
Yeah.
I don't think I could have ever done it like that. It's so crazy.
Yeah.
That's totally skateboarding to me.
Yeah.
Sure. Absolutely. But, I've heard some guys say, I'm more of a manual type of guy. I'm like, what does that say about you, though? I mean, are you not accepting 99% of all skateboarding because you're a manual type of guy?
It's kind of my thing. I just do manuals.
Yeah, you know what I mean? Like, well, have fun, dude.
Yeah. I'm an ollie guy. It's no big deal. Whatever.
Yeah.
Weird.
I spent a lot of times when my early Santa Cruz years, I spent a lot of time with Nadas and Gans.
Mm-hmm.
When they were developing, like I saw Nadas, and we've been there the other day at the first handrail he ever tried, which is at Oceanside Pier.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
It's the street competition there.
I remember it.
He just tried it in his run and no one thought much of it, but later I saw him do the thing.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And also Mark, and you could see how every day he would just because he could do the ollie up on everything, and so he was doing it up on everything. And it's crazy to see these people skate. Certainly not I'm not the best street skater out there, but I also did it all the time, of course. Something I grew up on street skating, if you want. There's a street, I skated it.
Yeah.
That's all we had.
Well, you mentioned Santa Cruz briefly, and I mean, we've touched on a few episodes, and even internally, we've always talked about Jerry Madrid, kind of starting the Madrid team, and in his mind, it was kind of a farm team focus, and the idea of kind of get these guys started and graduate onto other companies and bigger things. So, what was your transition from Madrid, and when and why and how did that all come about?
Right. Well, it's a friendly transition, I hope. For my part, for sure.
Absolutely.
I feel like I brought a lot to the table. I got to work with the super nice people out here. At some point, I got picked up by Richard Mediver to ride Santa Cruz Speed Wheels.
Right.
And I loved that team. I loved what he was doing. There's a bit of money involved, a photo incentive too, and it's a good thing. And everyone here was cool. I remember we talked about it. You're like, go right ahead.
Mm-hmm.
And Tim Piamater has always, like I said, when Spidey was there, like years before, wanted me on the team, wanted a board with me even. So he's kind of followed what I was doing. So I got 6th in half pipe at the Vancouver World Championships. And I meet him on the stair up to the ramp after the contest. And he just looks at me and goes, he has a very distinct voice. I'm not going to try to do it like that. But he's like, Grabke.
Yeah, that sounds like him.
Grabke, when are you joining Santa Cruz now? I've been trying for years.
Right.
So I didn't think about it much yet. But then, like I said, I went home. I had orange hair at the time, and I went and started my job apprenticeship. Like, you learn a job in Germany for 3 years before you get actual pay.
Yeah.
You get a little bit of pay, but you learn the job. And I learned the job of what they do now with a scanner, like preparing for print, back then was a big topic on film and whatnot, a complicated matter. And I learned that in my hometown. I only did it for a year because somewhere in there, in the time of being in a band, bringing out records on Rough Trade Records with the Smith and all of that, plus making a magazine and a zine. I had a zine called Death Zone also.
Right.
Having a beautiful girlfriend, now wife, skateboarding, all of that stuff together. I was sitting there at the job going, what am I doing here?
Yeah.
And then Santa Cruz kept calling. What are we doing here?
Yeah.
We're ready to go. This is going to be huge.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, and you know, for me, it was Jerry always saw it as kind of a farm team,
right,
not me.
right.
I
You were pissed off?
I wasn't pissed off. No, especially with you.
I would
wasn't
understand. With
pissed
you
off.
and I would understand because we had a
Yeah.
personal thing going.
Yeah, no, I wasn't pissed off. Well, with any of them, it really kind of set me back on a few because I'm like, man, this guy's whether it was Jenks or Grabke or
Yeah.
Douglas,
There's a lot
or
of them, right? All the big names.
Roscop,
Yeah.
Kendall.
Oh, my God.
So it was like, man, they're tearing away part of the family. But I always saw that shit, whether it was a Santa Cruz or a Powell or whoever, is going to have a lot more money and is going to be able to do a lot better for these
Right.
guys. With you, it was like, I don't know, it was just different. It felt like this is what we need to do for Claus, or Claus needs to do. He needs to move on to this really big opportunity.
Right.
So for me, it was like, it was never going to change our relationship.
It didn't. It
It
didn't.
just, okay, so now he's living
Yeah.
at that apartment.
Right. Well, you
that
see,
was
I
it.
was, like I said, all of a sudden, I was learning a job. I wasn't working in skateboarding.
Right.
I just got sixth in the world championships. And I'm home, sitting there with my orange hair, with these people that are like 2 or 3 years younger than me that didn't even want to learn that job. I wanted to learn that job because I was bringing out magazines, but I was wasting my time.
Right.
And the opportunities with Santa Cruz, as you were saying, were incredible. I needed
Yeah.
some pay, to be honest, in the first place.
Sure.
And I was just intrigued by how hard Tim was going and
Yeah.
saying, hey, man. So I said, all right, let's do it.
Yeah.
Right? Called you, I believe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it
And
was-
said, hey, man, it's a blur. I've never done any drugs or any drop of alcohol, just so you know.
Yeah.
It's a natural blur. And then, so I worked with Tim, and you don't just do a board. He was different. He's same cloth as you, slightly different in how he does it.
Yeah.
I sent him what I thought was a good idea. It's like, no. We're going to go through, just so you know, we're going to go through about 10 test boards. I want you to be 100% happy. So the first batch of test boards was like 3 different shapes. Like I came up with the shape. He sort of warped that around a little bit in his own
Right.
world. I don't like this. I skated it. The tail didn't feel right, blah, blah, blah. It has a very distinct shape, especially the tail. So he came up with that. And graphic-wise, I found my perfect match.
Oh, yeah.
Jim Phillips. Hey, Jim, so I've always had clocks. Perfect. I love it.
Run with it.
I
yeah.
love it. So what were you thinking? I'm like, I'm thinking exploding clock. He's like, oh my God, you just made my day. I said, and it's me skating through the clock. That's why the clock is breaking. Destroying time, he's like. I'm like, exactly. I love it. Back in the day, fax machines.
Right.
No one listening in knows what that is, but it's a prehistoric way of sending a graphic, for instance,
Right.
via a paper medium. So I get a black and white. I wish I still had it. I don't, but a first scribble.
Right.
Very much already that what it became, right? I'm like, okay, we'll change this and that, blah blah blah. And to everybody out there, this is a good one for Madrid. The little skater guy in my exploding clock is me doing a Smith grind on my Madrid skateboard. It's a photo that my
Thank
friend
you.
Uli took.
Uh-huh.
I'm riding.
That's pretty
It's
rad
when I was
trivia
still
right
riding for
there.
Madrid,
Yeah.
a local ramp.
Yeah.
But he loved that shot. He's like, I'm going to use that shot. I'm like, all right, it's a
That's
Madrid
awesome.
board. He's like, I'm not showing the bottom. I'm like, okay. But that, for all the Santa Cruz fans out there,
That's
that's me
rad.
riding a Madrid skateboards with fly wheels.
Nice.
That's awesome. Yeah.
But pretty soon he had it. Then I get a board sent by Tim that has like his scribbles on, blah, blah, blah. But it's got like a 3-color print of the graphic. So I'm like, all right, well, something's missing here. Dwayne has the stripes. I need some stripes or something. It needs to cover the board. So I get the version back with the stripes. Perfect. So that's how that was done. And the important part here is because you were right about that. He needs to go somewhere. Something needs to happen here with this guy. Because I was working. This could have been the rest of my skateboard career. But now I'm in this job, and after a half year of me working there, I now get to see my first numbers. The board is out for a month. You, at the time, got a dollar per board, and my first check was $18,600. My boss at the time probably made $5.
Yeah.
So I watched how that evolved, and it didn't get less.
Yeah.
So I was like, I'm going to need to quit here, right? So I flew. One-way ticket was a thing at the time. You could do that.
Yeah.
This is before 9/11, so they would let you just fly in and
Right.
decide when you wanted to go home.
Yeah.
And I went to Santa Cruz Skateboards on a one-way ticket. I told my parents I'm just on a vacation. I didn't tell them I quit because they were super stoked on me having a job.
Learning a trade, having
Exactly. And I called my mother. I say, hey, just wanted you to know, I'll be real brief and real quick. I don't want your comments or anything. I quit my job at Bertelsmann, and I'm now with Santa Cruz Skateboards. I'm in Santa Cruz on a one-way ticket, not flying home in 2 weeks like I told you. And that's the end of that. And I hung up. 10 minutes later, one of the secretaries comes in. Claus, there's a phone call for you. She somehow found out the phone number for Santa Cruz Skateboards. I don't know how, because she couldn't Google it.
Digging through one of your magazines at home.
Maybe she did. I have to ask her about that. And she goes, now I'll be real quick and blunt. That's okay with us. Just be safe. And she hung up on me. I'm like,
wow.
Amazing. So then I got like a check card. Tim said, like, here's your bank account thing. You can deduct money.
Right.
And it was a pretty high amount of money was on that bank account. I was like, oh my God.
Especially for, how old are you at this time,
Good question. This is in 86. 23.
That's good money.
Yeah. Do you know it's gone now, unfortunately, but you know I had a Jaguar? Fender Jaguar.
Yeah.
I bought that Fender Jaguar that day.
Yeah.
Really?
Had a cool little guitar shop in
Was that your first
Santa Cruz.
splurge with your new
Yeah, you
skateboard
didn't have to
money?
worry about it. I'm like, I'm having that one. So no discussion on the price or nothing.
Yeah.
It's a 68 Fender Jag,
Still have it?
No. Feel bad about it now. I don't. I swapped it against something else somewhere from time. Yeah. But so, that was that move. It wasn't about the company. It certainly wasn't about you or anyone here. It was just an opportunity that was just bigger at the time. Yeah. And sometimes that's what you have to do,
You started playing music in the late 70s.
I did. Actually, early 80s.
Early 80s.
Spidey came. He was a guitar player. He taught me how to play guitar. I wanted a band. And Donna's the one who got me in the band. A guy was talking to me. I'm looking for a singer, and she said, "I'm not sure how you knew that, but he's a great singer. He'll do it." And so I was in my first band, 8 Days, which later
that was your first band.
that was my first band.
Wow.
The first song I ever sang, and the first take, too, that I ever sang is "What's So Strange About Me," that song that made it onto the Santa Cruz soundtrack.
Right.
Yeah, that's my brother had a little studio down in the cellar. Here's a mic, sing the song. I thought up the song, practiced the song, stood in front of the mic, sang it. That's it. Very quick.
Yeah.
Did like 6, maybe 8 songs. I'm not sure for that video. It's also something that I did. Like I had an interest in music always. Was collecting records and stuff, and then there was a band. Yeah, we toured a lot, but had bigger bands later. But that's the first band I had. Yeah.
Yeah. That was more kind of skate rock.
I would say it's more like British indie,
Okay.
almost like the Smith in a way, I always thought.
Okay.
A little bit of definitely new wave. Skate rock is a term, I believe, invented by Mofo.
Yeah. Yep.
And he really just meant skaters doing music,
Right.
Yeah.
whatever it was. So the first skate rock tapes had like just feedback on it or whatever, or like sometimes it was punk rock. But the actual term skate rock that people think about now, they think about NoFX or something like that, like a fast-paced, sort of like Millencolin from Sweden or something like that. I've heard people call Bad Religion skate rock.
Yeah, it's that Fat Records kind of.
But we were in that. We were on that tape.
Yeah.
And that tape got us a record deal with Rough Trade. because they saw the telephone number on the tape and they're like, these guys are good. But we always thought about ourselves more as like a new wave, indie, rock, whatever band. I don't think we ever, I don't think my band ever used the term skate rock.
8 days, and then...
I had 2 bands then after that. I had a band called Alternative All-Stars.
Alternative All-Stars.
And then I had a band called Thumb.
Right.
And that's like a post-hardcore, real hard stuff. Like Alternative All-Stars was, both of them are really successful, I have to say. Like MTV music videos and stuff. I, at one point, not sure if you know this, I had an MTV show.
I didn't?
Yeah, it was actually, it started with the Titus show. Titus had developed the show.
Okay.
And the idea was to have the skaters be, like, it's a show about Steve Cavallero, and he will be the guy announcing between whatever video clips they showed. And then I did mine, and the MTV people said, your idea is good, but we want this guy to be the main host of the show. So I got to do that for a little bit, so people would recognize me on the street and stuff. But my band, Alternative All-Stars, was more like what 8 Days was. So like I played guitar and sang, I wrote all the songs, and we toured with Bon Jovi, did a whole European tour with Bon Jovi, toured with Bad Religion, Oasis from England. I don't know how big they are here, but they are like the biggest thing ever in Europe.
Oasis?
Yeah.
Oh, they were massive. Yeah, they were one of the biggest rock bands.
Yeah, we did all that.
We never heard of them.
We pulled a very good crowd ourselves. And then my other band that was happening parallel, I had record deals with BMG, EMI, and on the other side, what was Thumb with? Yeah, Thumb was with EMI, and then I was with BMG with the other band, which is unheard of. It's like writing for 2 companies at the same time.
Yeah, how did they allow that? You know, most major labels won't even let you like...
No, I had a deal with Thumb, and they were like real hardcore and heavy, and I was just singing in that, but also involved in everything else. I really put my heart and soul in both of those bands. But then the other band was sort of happening on the side, and I had collected enough stuff for an album. And our manager for Thumb was like, yeah, we need to bring this out. So we offered it to the same to EMI, and we said, you know, how about this? And they're like, no, we don't want to do it. And I said, yeah, but I want to do it. And I'm not going to like pursue anything if you're not okay with this. And they're like, oh, we'll go somewhere else. That's fine. So we went to BMG. And that was
pretty
interesting.
Unheard of in the major
Very
label
unheard
world.
of. Very unheard of. But it didn't take much persuasion. They understood. It's something that, and that was more pop, rock, whatever. And, but Thumb, we opened up for Foo Fighters on their first European tour. Henry Rollins, End of Silence tour, all of that. And Thumb pulled about 2,500 people every night wherever they went. We played all the major festivals. It was a proper music career. Like
the early
big
to
shot.
Early to mid '90s is when I was absorbing all things Victory Records.
Yeah, we were on Victory here in the States. Yeah.
That's how I knew of Thumb at the time.
We were the first German band to ever play the Warped Tour. Oh, you heard?
That? Yeah. It was like I say, Victory Records for a minute, especially for me, was the label. I mean, I was
Tony
straight edge hardcore kid, you know. So it's all that snap.
That's kind of what Thumb was, but we had a DJ in the band. So that's sort of the difference. And there was more melody then because the first album, the boys didn't want me to sing really because they're like, you come from 8 Days, that's so melodic, we don't need that here. So I was just barking. Yeah. But then the second and third album changed direction, and the one that you would know is our third album called Exposure. That recently came out again on vinyl, and we got to number 19 in the German album charts.
Nice. Yeah.
Just for the reissue of that.
How did you guys form that connection with Victory? Like, how did that come about?
We had the offer to play the Warped Tour, and we reached out to some American labels through our management to say, look, is anyone going to bring this out? What's going to happen here? So then Tony Brummel, who runs Victory Records, said, yeah, sure, I'm in. That's cool. And then...
Did he know you through your skating career?
No, I don't think so. Just later, we met him in Detroit, I think they're from. Chicago, exactly. We met him in Chicago, and then we talked about that. But maybe a good thing he didn't know, because sometimes, you know, I was personally a little careful if record companies jumped on that too quickly. Yeah. We were talking with Thumb, we were talking to Roadrunner at the time, because we thought they're the perfect fit for us. Sure. And then the guy's like, yeah, we'll put a half pipe on stage. And they had a band called Doggy Dog, who are also skate-oriented. Yeah, sure, I produced their last album. Okay. So I have a good connection to them, and they're like, we'll put Doggy Dog and you on tour together,
Right.
and while they're playing, you are skating the half pipe, and so that's when my band decided we're not. And then so we had talks with EMI, but they didn't know who I was. So it's good. We had a fresh start. They later found out who I was, and yes, then we were on television a lot talking about that or skating or whatever.
Did you consciously want to remove the novelty of?
I didn't want it
being
at
skateboard
first
guy?
because people wouldn't understand that anyways. In the record industry, people at that time didn't know too much about skating. It's a good tool to promote maybe, but I didn't want to sell out for that. You know, it's like, look, this is I'm a musician here. We're talking about music here.
Yeah.
You know, I later maybe realized that with me, I'm all of that, right? You can't just single one thing out. While I was on Madrid, I wasn't really in a band yet, right? But then pretty shortly after I was, and I took it quite serious. But I still believe it's a good thing to not sell it as, like you were saying, skate rock.
Yeah.
Right.
Saying it's the guy from Santa Cruz Skateboards is now in a band or something. I think, I was always afraid that because I was also a photographer for both Thrasher and Transworld. It's another unheard of thing, right? I don't know how that happens. Maybe I'm just persuasive. Maybe I'm like, this is going to happen, yes
Everybody
or no.
loves you.
You know.
Give it a chance.
I don't know. I'm not sure about that. But so I didn't sell myself as a photographer either. Like, I'm only a photographer. But I actually do a lot of photography and video. We're probably later going to get into Finn's band, and I do a lot of their graphic stuff and photo stuff. And I never, these days, I don't see myself as every single one of these things. It's more like, that's kind of what I do.
Yeah.
I'm able to use stuff from different fields to contribute to one thing.
Outside of playing music, at what point did you develop more of a focus on engineering and producing? Kind of get behind the gears.
And I think it comes with the territory. And it's, again, from a more negative experience.
Having bad recordings with your own
Exactly.
bands. Yeah.
Going into the studio, recording something. And the first stuff sounded great because that's the one that's on the Santa Cruz video. And I actually think that sounds great. But it sort of just happened. So you're recording the next album, and now everything's not sounding great. And I put on a Beatles record, and I'm like, why are they sounding this way? And 40 years later, we're not.
Right.
Well, because they use this and that. Oh, interesting. Can we use that? Yeah, I don't have it. Well, I get it. And then, now it's sounding better. Learning that, looking over someone's shoulder, saying, why is certain things, why is that slapback delay good for this and not for that? Then reading up some books and being very interested in it, much like skateboarding.
Yeah.
When I was like super interested in skateboarding, and you absorb everything.
Yeah.
And it wasn't like I could Google how to record. So you have to read through these big books and learn by failing a lot. And so pretty early on, like the second and third 8 Days records, I already produced. It was still the same guy running the technology behind it because I didn't yet know how to run the tape machine properly. But I knew I wanted the mic in this position, and I wanted that guitar to be doubled, and I wanted the vocals panned to the left or whatever. So that's what I did, and I did that with everything that came out that I was a part of.
Did you at some point now graduate to having your own studio? And
Yeah.
was that a period of just amassing a bunch of equipment over the years, and then finally, or was it like, I'm going to open a studio and I'm going to go get all this gear?
Kind of like that.
Yeah.
Kind of like that. I met this old guy who used to work for Telefunken. Telefunken is one of the companies that sort of invented how people are doing audio now. The XLR, for instance, that you're using on your mics is developed by Telefunken. So I met a guy, he repaired something for me, and I noticed, okay, so he used to work for Telefunken since the 30s. And so he knew a lot of stuff about it. So he made me a list of things to look for, and I bought that stuff at flea markets and got like some really good deals on some of the good gear. I didn't have a place to record though. I only had like an upstairs studio for a little bit. The problem was always, what do I record to? Because tape recorders were expensive and they would break very easy. And then there was something called ADAT, which is like a video recorder type deal. And it also was only good for 400 hours of recording, which is nothing, to be honest. Then I got the first really, really good tape recorder, and later went to computers, of course. But I still have a lot of equipment.
So when you first opened the studio, were you like, I mean, reel to reel, like
Yeah,
analog,
totally.
16 track? What was the?
Yeah, I had an 8-track tube tape recorder made of mahogany wood
Yeah,
from England.
yeah.
That was breaking all the time and warping. I would like record bands in their practice room. The thing was super heavy.
Yeah.
The band would have to come. We'd have to like all carry the thing into the van, drive it to the practice room, record them in the practice room, and then I'd mix it at home. That's my start in all of that.
8 tracks, you said?
8-track. And then so there's a band that have a 7-inch out, and the second, like the B side, starts speeding up a lot by the end of it because my tape recorder just
Who is
speeding
that?
up.
Who's that band?
They're called Super Sucker World Cup.
Okay.
It's Mark's band.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Because the tape recorder just was, and it was honestly my pain. I couldn't get this thing repaired, and I didn't know what to do. And went from one medium to the other, tried different tape recorders. Eventually got a Studer, which is state of the art, and was able to work professionally with it, But now computers are easier. Now you need nothing. You need one backpack full of equipment. You can do a whole record.
Yeah. We could probably just
Literally.
We just
What
fire
we
up
just
this
did.
MacBook.
Which we,
right now.
I'm doing it all the time. I
Yeah.
just did a record for the Picture Books, my son's band, with guest singers. Lizzie Hale from Hailstorm, Neil Fallon from Clutch, Dennis Luxon from Refused.
Nice.
All of those guys
Yeah.
were recorded with my little UAD solo, one microphone, straight into the computer. I didn't even need a power source.
Sure. Yeah.
All of this just works.
What's the studio look like today, though? I mean,
The studio's big.
Yeah.
It's now not my studio anymore. It's the Picture Book studio because they took over. Also, my job, they took over. Like, that's what I do now.
Yeah.
I don't. I did all of my music for the longest time, and Finn joined me in the bunk of the Nightliner on many tours, and so got to see that. But once he got a record deal when he was 17. So once that took off, they obviously needed someone that knows that business because it's a crazy business.
Yeah.
And so I stepped in, but I was still producing bands like Doggy Dog, for instance, on the side. I was working with a lot of European bands, a lot of Norwegian bands. Sort of word got around in Norway that this guy's good. I sometimes just mixed some of their records. Didn't really produce it, but just mixed stuff. But then the time came when these guys were playing so much that I needed to be full-time sound guy for them, producer and tour manager. So the studio is theirs now, but it's got a big recording room. We've got a couple of recording rooms. We've got a big room where we work on motorcycles. They're sponsored by Harley Davidson, so we have a lot of bikes standing around.
Now you're speaking my language.
See, is that your SR 500 out
It
there?
is, yeah.
There you go.
That's
We have a couple
that's
of.
my COVID project.
That's his first.
Nice, yeah.
His first actual motorbike
Yeah.
was an SR 500.
Yeah,
I had mine too.
Yeah.
I had bikes throughout my skating days. I was an enduro type guy, like XP 500, Yamahas and stuff. But then when Finn was born, I got a Vespa, and I would have him on the Vespa with me when he was young, driving to skate park, riding to skate parks. But at some point they got Yamahas and then Harleys. Harley saw that, and then they're like, "Hey man, can you work on some of these modern bikes too?"
Yeah.
And so I think you have 4 bikes given to you already by Harley. It's a dream.
It's kind of insane.
It is insane. But yeah, so the studio now is sort of half-half. It's a big bike thing where we also record because the reverb is great in that room. And the other half of it is a professional sounding, still pretty big room where we do most of the guitar and vocal stuff, the vocal cabin, all of that stuff. I've got a big Neumann mixing desk, one of 4 ever made. I've got a lot of Telefunken and Neumann gear. It's a very nice looking, it's a magical place.
Yeah.
It's where kind of everything comes together. And there's a skateboard now. The only time I really skate actively is every day when I mix. I go into the main room with the wooden flooring, and I just do like some little kick turn, like I
Nice.
pretend I'm riding a half pipe or something.
Is this part of your house or is it
No,
separate?
it's out in like a nature preservative resort,
Nice.
and it's on a farm.
So the Picture Books,
Tell me about
you tell me about it. That's your full-time gig now.
it. It is my full-time gig.
You started in, what, 2009, was it?
You mean me?
Yes.
Like
We're
with
talking
me?
to Finn now.
Yeah. Obviously, a lot of similarities with my dad here, as I am his son.
Well, that was going to be one of my questions. I mean, a lot of times kids will see what their parents are doing and go, fuck, no, I'm going this direction.
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
totally different. But you grew up with a dad that's a pro skater and a musician. was that something you always wanted to kind of do, or did you look to become a politician or something completely different?
Well, definitely had phases where I wanted to do stuff that had nothing to do with that. I couldn't even recall the kind of stuff, but I'm the kind of guy that fans out on stuff and really becomes that, kind of like, I guess my dad is, you know, he nerds out on stuff, like how he just talked about all the small pieces of equipment that he has, you know, for a lot of people. Even for me, it's like, I'm like, wow, like that's way too much information, you know. But so when I fan out on something, I really go crazy on it. So with skateboarding and music, he never forced that onto me. It was never like, go skate, go skate.
Right.
I see a bunch of skater dads out there try to do that to their kids, and it won't work. It will never.
No, they're like little league dads or whatever.
Yeah, but I went on skate trips, did my thing. Like, skate parks are a cool place for kids, you know. I was running around there, and there was a skateboard lying around for me if I wanted to, and sometimes I wanted to, sometimes I didn't. Sometimes I did whatever. I even brought my friends with me. I remember we had always had my friends with us, and you would just go to Munster, skate the ball, whatever, and we would just play whatever, you know, play games there and stuff like that. But so skateboarding was just, to this day, it's just in my DNA. I literally was born skateboarding. I have pictures as a baby with fucking pads on the skateboard in the kitchen. So I cannot not be one. You know, I am a skateboarder living this life. First, skateboarding is first. Everything I do it from a skateboarding perspective. Yeah. And I think only skateboarders can understand that. It's something you cannot tell or make a person that is not a skateboarder understand how we see the world.
Right.
Yeah.
We never just walk by a curb and think, oh, curb.
Yeah.
Right.
We look at the paint. Is it thick enough to do grinds on it?
Right.
That staircase, is it skatable? Rough ground here. It's hard to skate.
Yeah, it's always rough ground. I'm walking, I'm like, oh, you couldn't skate here.
Yeah. And I only see beauty in things that are skatable. You know, like, oh, I love that house. Why? Well, look at that shape.
Transition.
Did you see that bag?
Right.
So that's in me, and skateboarding definitely. And I don't know if maybe that was because my dad was doing it that way, and I thought it's the right way to do it that way. But I was trying to make it a thing, like my job or something. I was sponsored by Tito's. I was going that direction, but I was definitely feeling, oh, this is not working out for me. I can't do the sponsor thing. I love skateboarding. I really do, but it's fun for me. It's my life, and I can't have that being my job. I can't imagine. There was situations where, like, I was at a skate contest wearing a Rolling Stone shirt, and that was a problem. Like, why am I not representing the brand? Now I'm older. I tell that to a 13-year-old that's just hyped on skateboarding and thought having a Rolling Stone shirt is really important that day.
Right. Yeah.
Makes sense too. So it was like, you know, it was the situation that you're in as a teenager when you want to be in that world. So I realized real fast, and that was the same time music was happening. Again, not something that my dad got me into, just friends that were doing music, and I was around that, and there was a guitar lying around, or guitars and other instruments, and so it was just there, you know. It was never forced on me, but it was there, so I was using it. And so that was like a good transition. I was still in school. I was still a kid. So I was like, all right, I'm not doing the sponsor thing. I'm still skating. I just want to do music and see wherever this is going. It wasn't meant to be a job as well. It was just something I did after school and after skateboarding. But it got real good what we were doing. Like, I was feeling something special there. Yeah. He at some point listened to some of the stuff we were doing because we were practicing in our house.
Yeah. Couldn't not listen to it.
Yeah. It was like,
it's not like I could not hear.
I remember it just at some point, because we were in the attic, that's where what practice room was. He just went upstairs like, this is good. We should, you guys, if you ever feel like recording something, you let me know and we go to the studio and record whatever you're doing up here. Wow. But here's me, and that is not me actually feeling that way. Like, I would have loved to just say, let's go do that right now. But there is this, and that's a skateboarder thing. I think a problem in the skateboarder's mind. It's like, well, maybe that is not cool. Like if my dad is recording me now, you know, I
Sure.
would get the, oh well, you're Grabke's son, you know.
Right,
I would
sure,
get that
Yeah.
shoved down my throat. And
You want to pave your own way, man.
Yeah.
For sure.
I was kind of scared of that, but I felt like the more I was trying to push that away or try to not do that, I felt like the more people were smelling that I was like scared of that. So at some point I just gave up on that fear, and at that point I didn't even care if anybody thought. Oh, it was vanished.
Yeah.
I didn't even hear if it, like maybe somebody talked about it that way, but I didn't even hear it anymore. But before that I was probably like so scared of it that I heard it in everything that they were saying. Like, are you accusing me of, you know, like I was
sure, yeah,
very
a little
suspicious.
defensive and suspicious.
Yeah. But then that music thing became something. We were recording some stuff, all fun and games, nothing serious. But in the back, he was sending that stuff out to like people, and he was
Proud dad stuff.
Yeah.
of course.
I knew some people in the record business that became very good personal friends, right? And I sent it out to two of them, and one song is all they needed. So they called you and said, "We'd like to make a record with you."
It's a good guy that
I really just was like, "Hey man, this is what my kid's doing. We just recorded a song."
Yeah.
So we had booking and label when he was 17.
It's a weird business, the music business. He didn't send it out to people that would screw me over or something. Like honest people.
Yeah, sure.
And the guy that we really to this day work with is a guy called Arna. He has a label called Noiseolution in Berlin. To this day, my favorite person, and probably my Bo Brown, I guess.
Oh yeah, interesting. Yeah.
Somebody that kind of took over at some point and helped me find a way in that music business, and is still involved in everything I do. He's the guy that I call, ask for advice, you know.
Wow.
Good guy. And so that started happening. We were playing shows at the beginning. I was learning a lot still, you know, which basically translates into making a lot of mistakes. And fast forward, a lot of things changed. A 3-piece band became a duo, and we're now an international touring band playing like 200 shows a year. And
shout out to Philip.
Somewhere in between that, we were getting into motorcycles, and all over this, we were skateboarders.
Yeah, and you guys have played like the Born Free festivals, stuff
we did cool stuff out here. Like that's kind of what the skateboarding and motorcycle scene. That's how kind of the band started out, finding their paths. You know, like that's the thing. That's the coolest thing about skateboarding is skateboarders are all over. If you go to Universal Records or something like that, or you go to Capitol, probably there's at least like 10 to 20, maybe even people that come from a skateboarding background.
Yeah.
They're everywhere. Skateboarders are everywhere. We're basically ruling this world.
We're the cockroaches of the world.
Exactly. You know?
They're not in politics so much, but
No.
Oh, they are though. There are though.
Are they? Oh yeah. Beto. Yeah. Okay.
That's right.
The one. Okay, the one.
What?
Well, maybe not the people that you see on television, but somewhere around
Yeah.
there. You know, everyone had maybe a background somewhere.
One of my skateboard mentors from Berlin, who I'm not sure if you ever met him, Kola.
Yeah.
He founded the Green Party in Germany. So they are out there. So forgive me for the comment. They are out there.
Yeah.
They're everywhere. So that all of a sudden we came over here at one point. A guy called Cedric Bixo-Savala. He's the singer. Yeah, he's the singer of Mas Volta. And
at the drive-in.
And other cool projects. He got a hold of us on Instagram. And for us, that whole like social media thing was the best thing that could have ever happened. Being a band from a small town Germany, had the same problems that my dad was talking about. You know, you're seeing what's out there, but you're not there. So we were kind of stuck there.
Yeah.
So he made this show happen in LA, and
he found you all just through Instagram.
Just through Instagram.
Yeah.
And he's like, "You guys want to show up at the Harvard and Stone in Hollywood?" And we're like, "Dang, hell yeah, we'll come over for that." Played the show, sold out show. It was a Dice magazine show. Dice magazine is a motorcycle magazine. So they were liking that we're into motorcycles. They were liking that we're doing what we were doing. And then in that night, it was just right timing, you know, right people were there. We were booked out for the next 2 months in America, and we were just playing shows. And every night it was something else. Was like a new show would come up, like freaking what's his name, O'Brien. his
Corey O'Brien.
Corey, yeah, sure.
You know, like he would open up his venue in San Jose. At that venue, some other club owner, whatever, would be there. Hey, why don't you come over in a week or so to my venue that I have in San Francisco? And then, you know, we would just be like, very open for that. And when you're open for something, like you were talking about with skateboarding, when you have that drive, that love for something, you'll find that path will open in front of you. Sometimes you can't plan that out all. You know, you can't just be. You probably don't know what's about to happen, but if you're open for it, usually those paths are opening up for you.
Yeah, and you guys have played a lot of big shows.
Oh yeah.
And then you also play small venues like Corey's Place or Alex's Bar. Yeah. What's the draw to do both? Why, if you're doing these big shows, what's the draw to do smaller clubs?
Well, for instance, if you take, we just played the Governor's Ball in New York, Lana Del Rey, all those mofos are playing there. You know, it's like it's crazy. It's awesome. Yeah. You know, backstage, just crazy vibes. You're at the catering and Black Keys and all these guys are there, and it's you realize it's a small world because they're all living the same life that we're living. You know, on the road, trying to make a living, you know, and the hassle's the same, even for those big guys, you know, they still have to go up there and you know, give it 110%. That's always hard, no matter how big you are. It's the same with skateboarding. Mm-hmm. And so to play these kind of shows where it's thousands of people in front of you and you probably think that that's a lot of pressure. Mm-hmm. Usually these are the shows where I'm the calmest because everything's fine. That's what I'm here for. I'm prepared for this. You know, that's what I'm preparing for. I'm not preparing for we sold 2 tickets and you got 3 guests who only one person showed up. I don't practice for that, you know. Yeah. I practice for the freaking festivals.
Right.
Do you find there's a disconnect too when you have, you know, when you've got a sea of strangers, you can't even see their face, or you're playing to 200 people where they're right up on the stage with you? To me, that's far more nerve-wracking. You know, you have a disconnect if it's just sort of a sea of just anonymity, you know.
But I tell you what, you're right about that. But because I see them every night, because I do their sound and tour manage, they have an incredible way with the audience. Yeah. And it's a communication thing that happens and works in the Alex's Bar. We've been to Alex's yesterday. He's like, when are you coming back? We need this place full
Shout
again.
out to Alex Hernandez. You're the man.
Yeah,
but
absolutely.
Even with the big ones, they've done some of the biggest festivals in Europe this year. And like we've had one in Spain where the audience after the show sort of somehow made it to the side of the stage into almost like a forest area, like hundreds of them. Yeah. Because they knew the band would come off the stage that way. They were shouting like for minutes, big cherbugs. Yeah. You're like, okay, so there's something happening that me as a mix guy, I have to understand. So Finn has this quality to be the communicator between, even in masses of people. Sure. But you're right about that. There is, I think, for you guys, because I mix you in both situations, there's a more direct thing happening in the smaller venues.
Absolutely.
And there's no way around playing the smaller venues because Alex is what, like a 300 capacity?
Probably.
Maybe?
No, not even.
Yeah, so, maybe, yeah. I mean,
let's
max,
say whatever, 250. But they play in Europe. They play much bigger places and stuff. But it's still a club show. Yeah. And it needs to happen because festivals are one thing, and you sort of have to prove yourself on your own terms. Yeah. Especially post-pandemic. Sure. Right? So we do a good mix of that, I think.
One thing that we need to add to this is, and I think a lot of this is very comparable to skateboarding. We don't skate for a contest. We skate for a lot more reasons than just winning contests.
Right,
yeah, for sure.
So me doing music, I don't just play music to be up on a stage and play the big festivals or the cool venues and sell out shows. I love everything that comes with it. Yeah. I love recording. I love the whole social media stuff around it, promoting it. You know, how are you representing graphics? We work on all the graphics, merchandise, all that stuff that comes with that. Touring. If you think these days you can be a band that is going on tour and just gets other people to do that job for you, they just hop in the van and that's it. That's not how it's done. You're working hours on every tour. Find the hotels, find the food, it's a lot of planning out and getting that done to make it a fun and actually successful thing if you want to keep doing it, because I live of doing this, right? I'm a musician. That's my job now. And if I want to keep it that way for as long as possible. And so you have to be clever about a lot of these things. And that's a lot of these things where my dad comes in, who has done a lot of mistakes that he made me not do again, especially on the financial side of things, right? Bands can't wait to have this huge entourage of people that just wipe their ass all day, and so all they need to do is be drunk and go on stage, and that's it. I'm not doing it for that. I have no interest in that either. I didn't work my ass off to be now in a position to have this job and do this, to be in 10 years or so forget about all of this because I was buzzed out all day. That makes no sense in the world to me. So we're the kind of band that takes this really serious. We have a very, how do you say, strong work ethic? Is that a word?
Ethic.
Yeah.
Strong work ethic.
And it's Pops, my best buddy and brother Philip. Shout out to you. He's probably listening to that. Who's in Germany right now, and he's like, "What are you doing in Cali without me?"
I was shocked when you guys came over, and I didn't see him too.
Yeah. He's always with me.
Yeah.
It's just us three against the world, and it's the family that is backing us up. My mother, who's here with us today, my wife, my two grandmas, and we all work on this together, It's a good family affair and makes it all happen.
But it's gotten real big over the last couple of years. It's kind of, if anyone wonders what am I doing, I'm doing this only, and it's a lot.
Well, you mentioned Cedric kind of reaching out to you guys, and I think early on in this conversation you mentioned Dennis Lixon singing on the. Refuse is one of my favorites.
Yes, they are.
How did you guys link up with Dennis? How did that come about?
Well, that's a rad thing about the hardcore scene, because we're all hardcore fans. That scene is family. There's no stars. There are, but you can meet Dennis right now. And he wouldn't even give you a hint that he is somewhat a superstar and somebody else. He's a very down to earth guy. I don't know. Oh God, Dennis!
I played with him a bunch. I played with Refuse and International Noise Conspiracy.
The second picture book show we ever played. That is because of Arne, the guy that I talked about, that I believe in, of Noise Illusion, the first label. So he's like, I'm going to sign you, but I'm going to throw you into, that's a German saying, I think, into cold water.
Oh, yeah.
Can you say that here too? Like, I'm going to throw you in the water, in cold water, and see how you react to it?
Sure. Yeah.
And I'm going to have you play in front of International Noise Conspiracy, which is Dennis Lixon's other band.
Yeah.
That's how we got to
at the SO36 in Berlin, so that's a classic spot.
Yeah.
That's how we got to meet Dennis. And then, touring bands, You just, the other day we played a show in Oslo, and it was like 2 a.m. We go to this vegan pizza place, and who do you meet there? Sting with war paint on his face.
What?
That's a rock and roll story right there.
He's like, we're like,
okay.
What are you doing here?
Yeah.
Some Greenpeace shit. Let's have some pizza.
Yeah.
We talked, but same thing again.
Yeah.
He's living the same life.
Of course, yeah.
But
so is INC opening show that probably was.
That's skateboarders, artists in general, musicians. It's hard to explain that to people that live in a 9-to-5 world or whatever, And it took me years to understand that. It was so important for me to make my friends that are not musicians or skateboarders, to try to make them understand, hey man, I'm one of you. I'm one of you. Don't get me wrong. Don't look at me like I'm artiste and I don't know shit about the real world. Yeah. At some point, I had to realize I don't know shit about it. I don't know shit about all this crazy, normal life stuff.
Yeah.
I'm good at this.
This is normal life to you.
To me, But every time I tried before, and he tried to not make me do that, but I brought friends on tour. Yeah. And he's like, I'm not saying no to this, or I'm not trying to hold you back from doing that because I don't want your friends on tour. You can have your friends on tour, but see for yourself. And I had to realize it's not made for all of those motherfuckers left after 2 or 3 days. They're like, how the hell are you living this life? Yeah. It is. Some people are made for it, and some people are just not. Well, and it's okay. And normies, it doesn't mean better or worse. It's just what it is.
The normies, as I call them, they'll never have an understanding. I mean, I'm 20 years removed from getting in a van and going on tour. That's far in the rearview mirror for me. But even to, I mean, you know, I still meet coworkers from past jobs. They go, "What do you mean you were in a band? Like, I don't. You mean you got on a bus and you played the stadiums?" It's like, no. Like, that's not what this is. You know, they just don't. You know, most people just they don't understand. Yeah. Getting in a van with 5 of your buddies and, you know, playing for $20 a night and trying to make it to the next town. It sounds insane, and it is.
But it's what I've been doing since I was 14.
Yeah.
And compared to some of my skateboard peers, I'm still doing that.
Yeah.
I've like never left that van. The van just got bigger.
Yeah, it's a little more comfortable.
Like the biggest transit Ford you could buy for money, and we got it for free. Yeah. So that's kind of what's happening. The band just got a lot bigger over the last years. And that album you talked about with Dennis is part of an album where we have guest singers. Yeah. It's just a COVID project, if you like. We had some songs that we didn't want to release, but we had them anyway. So we just sent the songs out to people. And we sent it out to Dennis because he became a dear friend over the years.
That's great.
He's the first one to say yeah. So then you tell everyone Dennis is on it. So we got Lizzie Hale, and we've got Neil Fallon from Clutch, and we've got the guy from Monster Truck, a guy from Blackstone Cherry. So it's a cool album that we did.
But it was feelable there too. That in that project, like everyone was kind of singing about it, and we were like talking before the recordings. We were talking about this a lot too. How weird it is to be what we are, you know, and how to have nobody really be able to relate to it.
Yeah.
Yeah, everyone feels the same way.
It's like the question, like, where are you from? It's like, where do
how
I
do
start?
I explain it to you?
I speak a couple languages. I can tell you every good toilet in Milan. I know all the vegan hotspots. I know exactly what to order at Starbucks that you can get the most out of it, the smallest amount of money. I can do all that.
Tricks,
but I don't know if that in your eyes is any like good, if that's
it's a secret handshake stuff, man.
Yeah,
it's just it's being part of the club.
Secret handshake.
It's a secret handshake. It is.
Yeah,
that's what that was always my favorite. Well, still my favorite part of traveling, but my favorite part of touring was where's the vegan spot? Where's the best? Where's the best place to eat in this town? And that is a good segue to you. I mean, Claus, there's in the skateboard world, there's a couple of us. There's not a lot of vegans, but how did you arrive to be
all the
interested
good ones
in that? Yeah, that's right. Yeah. How did you come to veganism and what was your interest in that?
A lot to do with my wife, but it's definitely an experience that we both went through together. I can't pinpoint the exact moment, but it's probably passing a slaughterhouse in my hometown, making the decision that we don't want animals to suffer because we feel like we want to eat their ass. Yeah. And it's happened when maybe she was 20 and I was 24, so a long time ago.
I was 17.
So even earlier. Yeah. So I was then 20. So so much earlier than I thought. Yeah. So I've been a vegetarian for 39 years and vegan for 10, 15. I'm not sure. I'm not even sure. But Finn has never had meat in his entire life. And we together once just sat down and he said, let's all be vegan. My wife said, yeah, finally. And I had tried it a few years before, but it's like if someone has to cook 2 meals just to make everyone happy, that's also not a good thing.
Well, these days, I mean,
2022, it's incredibly easy.
It's incredible.
It's like we had scrambled eggs the other day. It's like,
well, and you're in Southern California too. It's that makes it a bit easier too. But I mean, I went vegetarian in '92. And I came from a non-vegetarian household, so like you say, my mom was like, I'm not making 2 meals. So it made me learn how to cook. Yeah. It made me learn how to feed myself.
We never cooked before, my wife and I, and then started buying whatever early products that were out there. They had like a tofu, sort of sausage thing, and we kind of, the different dishes we made just out of that one product.
Sure,
to now go into the supermarket and basically buy maximum of 1% of what's out there because there's so much.
Not even a supermarket, but fast food restaurants here. I don't know how it is in Germany, but
that's a great thing.
You go to Del Taco, you go to Carl's Jr. and get
I think
vegan,
that on that topic, I think now Europe is even further because it's like you can't eat. McDonald's is like advertising big time that they're all like vegan. Yeah. Burger King now has this whole ad like company. How do you say that? Campagne.
Campaign.
Yeah.
Sorry. Campaign out in Europe where it's like you can order everything. Like everything they have on the menu.
Yeah.
You can have a plant-based version of that. And so that goes on and on, but in the supermarkets too. But I think the coolest thing that's happening in Germany, the biggest slaughterhouse or meat company, whatever you want to call it, has started doing some vegan products. And they started selling so good that now they got all of the product line and also a vegan version of that.
Yeah.
And they now just released the news that they are selling way more of the vegetarian vegan options than they are selling meat.
Yeah.
And if that continues to grow, they will stop making any meat product. This is the biggest meat company in Germany.
It's crazy.
Any meat product in the next 2 years.
Yeah. That's amazing.
When we
And
started.
that's Germany, the supposedly meat country number 1.
Yeah, you think
where it's
yeah,
like,
yeah.
nah, not anymore.
That's
and then
great.
these days, Happy Cow is the app that I use when we're on tour.
Yeah.
And it's like you're somewhere in freaking, I don't know, Mississippi or
and you can
Alabama
find somewhere
thinking,
to eat. Yeah,
holy shit, what are we gonna eat? Like they're gonna
Yeah.
kill us if we ask if this is even vegan.
In my day, it was Denny's. It was French fries and garden salad.
Yeah,
man. You'd stop
they now
us,
have Beyond Burger
I
and
know,
Denny's.
I
So
know,
we're
man.
in the middle of what,
It's a
like
revolution.
West Texas,
Yeah.
and you're thinking, oh God, this Denny's too?
Yeah.
No, this Denny's doesn't have it. It's all like cowboy hats, and they're going there. And this lady goes, we're like, what happened to Beyond Burger without the cheese, please?
Yep.
And she goes,
Yeah.
without the cheese? Nobody ever ordered burger without cheese in this restaurant.
Well, and I'll say every episode now. Just I don't know, our listeners don't know this, but every episode we record, Bo brings us vegan donuts.
Hell yeah.
So
And they were awesome.
shout out to
Good.
Bo
Thank you
for
for the vegan
supporting
donuts,
our.
Bo.
Shout out to Debbie's Donuts in Long Beach.
Thank you, Debbie's
There you go.
Donuts, for supplying us with quality breakfast of champions. But no, it's great. It's gotten easier. It's gotten less stigmatized, and I'm all for all the advancements. I was on a motorcycle trip a couple summers back, and I'd never find myself going to a Burger King. But like you say, if I'm in the middle of nowhere, I can at least know I can go grab an Impossible Burger and feed myself. Whereas
Hell
before, it was like, you're just loading up on extra bottle of water and chips at the gas station, so.
Yeah.
Eating raw bell peppers like they're apples.
But when we started out being vegetarian at first, it was really just for the ethical reasons.
Yeah.
Like we didn't want anyone to suffer
Yeah.
because we feel a certain way.
Mm-hmm.
And it's been definitely the reason why, you're not eating meat. But the nice thing about the modern day veganism is the health factor of it all.
Yeah.
Look, I'm almost 60 now,
Yeah.
right? I mean, in January I'll be 60. So I've been eating healthy a lot.
Yeah.
I'm making sure I'm getting my greens and all of that. I kind of avoid today was an exception with the donuts, and they were really good.
Sure.
I try to avoid the sugar as much as I can.
Yeah.
and
Yeah, his recovery time is insane. Like we were shooting a video out in Yakaveli 3-4 years ago. 4 years ago, and while we were shooting out there, he got hit by a truck. It was a hit and run.
Right, yeah.
Bicycle?
We want to get into this.
No, a truck.
But were you on a bike?
No, I was just on the side of the road.
Just on.
I filmed
just on
them. We had a
foot.
group of people. We had an actress who we've done a lot of videos with, and a guy who was technically making sure the motorcycles are working, etc. And he built one of the bikes with us. Shout out to Alan and Maker's Moto in Riverside.
Nice.
So we had a group of 9 people, but they were all in Pioneer Town. And
We
I
were
rode-
gone for 10 minutes. I left him alone for 10 minutes.
I
And he
rode-
gets hit
Should
by a
have never
truck.
done that.
I filmed this girl going downhill. Like I was on one bike filming the girl going down. I ended up on the bottom of the hill. The weather and sun was much better down there, but there was no phone reception. I wanted to call you and say, "Come down here. We'll continue filming here," but I couldn't reach you. So I told them to go back up, get everyone down. I'll wait here.
Yeah.
I looked in, I knelt down about 10 feet away from the street. It's kind of the desert, but there's a
Sure.
street.
Yeah.
And I looked at my footage. That's my last memory. And someone hit me, and I broke 10
Somebody
ribs.
must have gone off road.
Yeah,
and
someone
hit him.
went off road to hit me, and then
took
left.
off.
And I woke up in hell. I'd forgotten about who I am. I've been unconscious a few times from skateboarding, but
Yeah.
you sort of get to the point and realize who you are pretty quickly. This time I had no idea.
Wake up in the hospital.
No.
Or
I
on
woke
the-
up
on the
there.
road, yeah.
A German lady found me.
Really.
Which is insane.
Which
Yeah,
is
yeah,
insane.
what are
She
the
talked
chances?
German to me. I talked English to her.
Yeah.
I didn't know what was going on. I was in hell. I broke 10 ribs. I broke my number 1 vertebrae.
9 vertebrae.
Well, no, I broke off 9 pieces of the vertebrae. So sort of dinosaur wings, whatever you call them. Some doctor is listening in. He will let us know. But they're still floating around in the muscles somewhere. I tore both ligaments in my left knee, and I punctured my lung. So I woke up pretty much like when I was breathing, it sounded like a flute, like that, you know. And then the boys came, and I was, you know, taken to the hospital and everything, and it was just terrible. I was convinced that that's the end of that. My first hour, I was like, I'm going to die, because I kept, you know, going unconscious from all the pain and stuff. Then when I was kind of able to hold on to it a little longer, I thought, no, but you're going to be in a wheelchair from now on. And then the next morning, and I had some examinations, and it was tough, but the next morning some doctor came in who was overworked and in a bad mood, and he was like, yeah, so apparently you're like in the top 3 of lucky people this year, and you broke your vertebrae, but in the spinal cord canal, but apparently you have like skater instincts, and you know you don't look it, but you used to be a pro skater, and nothing was like affected. You're good. You're not going to need an operation. Yeah. You also screamed so loud with your working lungs that the ribs are kind of back in place. You're just going to be here for 10, 11 days, and you'll be fine. Have a good day.
Oh
I was like,
God.
wow, thank you for. Could have like the
could have
delivery could have been a little friendly,
a little better bedside manner.
But it was like
it was funny though.
He had a happy moment.
He had some compliments in there. He was throwing some.
Oh yeah, but he was like he was a Greek doctor.
Little backhanded.
He was like
Mr. Ex Pro Skater.
Apparently, and things. But 3.5 weeks later, I was healed up, and they didn't know how and why.
I'll tell you, and ladies and gentlemen, that's the power of veganism.
I think
I told him, and he said, "Tell us about you. What are you? Why are you healed up?"
They had doctors, like they X-rayed him. They had doctors, multiple doctors had to come in to like verify what they're seeing and verify the dates.
Yeah, they were like the first doctor didn't know me, and she looked at the X-rays. She's like, "You're fine. You're good. Start the PT tomorrow. Take the brace off. You're good. Let's go." And she left the room and she turned around. She said, 8 weeks, right? I said, no, 3.5. She said, wait a minute. Then she took another doctor and another doctor to look at my X-rays and to feel my back, and they're like, "How? What happened?" I said, "What do you mean?" They go, "What's your story?" I'm like, "I'm a skateboarder and a musician. I've never smoked a cigarette in my life. I've never had a drop of alcohol. I don't take any drugs. I'm a vegan."
Yeah.
And they're like, "Oh, we have 3 of you every year." What do we do with this knowledge? Go to the schools with the McDonald's truck parked outside? Yeah. They're not going to really want to listen in. But yeah, you know, a month after the accident, I was on tour with them in Europe.
Yeah.
Yeah. They didn't let me carry anything, of course.
Sure,
I was crippled.
Still impressive.
I wanted to, but I couldn't. But
if I'm clean shaven, I get questions about how old I am.
Yeah, I can see that.
And I say, you're not going to like the answer.
How old are you? How old are you?
42.
Yeah, see, that's amazing.
And
amazing.
I say, look, sober, never done drugs, never drank, and I've been vegetarian for nearly 30 years. No one wants to hear that. They want to hear that you can live crazy.
Look, it works for me.
Fountain of youth is real, man.
You know, I'm totally okay with whoever's listening in, whatever your lifestyle is.
Of course,
I'm fine with it. Just double, question yourself. Is it working for you?
That's right.
And what I'm talking about here, what we're talking for Finn and I, this is working.
Yeah.
We're happy this way.
Yeah.
We're doing good. It got me out of a really bad situation quite quickly.
It's crazy, man.
And to Finn, it wasn't a positive experience because he saw me lying there, and it was crazy for him having to make those phone calls and getting stuff done in the background. But for me, funny enough, I still see this as a very positive thing that happened to me.
Yeah.
I found out a strength that I didn't know I have.
Yeah.
Right? It's like I can't explain it. It would go into fields that I don't even think is worth talking about.
Yeah.
I'm not a religious man at all.
Yeah.
I really am not.
Yeah.
But it's something that happened that sort of like, oh, wow, okay, I got out of this.
Yeah.
I don't know how, but I did it.
I feel like we could probably do 6 or 8 volumes of this, but I also feel like that's a really great place to maybe to wrap it up right there.
I know.
I do think we could do a lot of volumes on this. I know you guys have already
I'll come back next year and we'll do part 2.
Well, let's do a follow-up. I know we've kept you here, a good couple hours or more, but
that's fine.
This even beats Roger Hickey's
episode.
Might.
Yeah. I mean, I can't think.
Shout out to Roger. I have your downhill board.
Yeah.
Let's skate.
He was episode number 2. It was a good one.
Madrid.
A lot of
right?
stories.
Yeah, so
Madrid,
a pink one.
First
with
pro
yellow
model.
print on. I still have it.
It's been a pleasure, man. Like
Oh,
I say,
same
we
here.
could
Thank
keep you
you,
here for another
guys.
2 hours
Right.
while we're on air. I mean, if there's anything you want to plug, shout outs, your music,
Where to
anything that
find
you
you.
do, where to find you on social media, please throw it out now and let us know where to find your music, Finn.
My name is Finn, and I'm the singer guitarist in The Picture Books. The band is called The Picture Books. How are you going to find out what we're doing these days? It's the easiest thing ever. You Google it, you YouTube it, you Instagram it. I don't care. We're out there. Find it, love it, see you at the show.
Nice.
I'm Claus Grabke on Instagram. This seems to be the platform I'm most
Yeah.
active at. Facebook is kind of fading away, I feel.
Yeah.
The picture books, that's also sort of like, that's what I do now.
Yeah.
So most of, if you want to see where I am, look up what they are. I'm going to be
You're
right
there.
there.
Yeah.
Other than that, Bo, I love you. Thank you so
love
much
you
for your
too.
friendship over the years. Thank you for the
course.
nice words in the beginning there.
Of course.
And thank you guys for having me. Thanks to Madrid Skateboards. It was the beginning of all the good stuff that followed. Everything else before it was a nice prelude, but Madrid was the first ones to really put the money to the table and say, let's do this. So I'm forever grateful for that.
That's awesome.
Thank you guys.
And he has a reissue on Madrid. Is that correct?
Absolutely, yeah. We just brought back the Madrid Claus Grabke model in a special, very limited glow-in-the-dark colorway. So
Yeah,
you can
I love
find
that
that
colorway.
at madridskateboards.com.
Cool shirts too.
And as a matter of fact, we've
I
got
know.
some tees with Klaus's artwork. And thanks, Bo. Thanks, Klaus and the Grabke family. You can find us at the Madrid Boardcast on Instagram. You can find Madrid Skateboards on Instagram. And you can find us wherever your favorite podcast stream. That's it. Thank you guys so much for being here. Really
Thank you, guys.
had a good time.
Thank you.
Thank you
Thank
guys.
you.